What's up, everybody, and welcome to Final Podcast. This is the Final Fantasy Entertainment and Podcast Network. I am the Warrior of Hype, and joined with me is Kuma.
Hey everybody, I'm very, very happy to be here.
And returning from the Project Calm, and just recently, the Floor 67, Liam Durney.
Hello, co-star. Yeah, we were in that together.
Hey, yeah, I was, wasn't I?
Yeah,
I did the voice of the news reporter. That was pretty fun.
I loved your segment at the end there. You make a really good talky guy. I think that's why
imagine that.
Imagine that, right? Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
No problem.
So today we're going to be talking about Final Fantasy 16, of course, but also we're going to be kind of addressing some concerns that the fandom still might have, and everything that you guys say, it's all coming from a place of passion. I see you guys in the comments on the YouTube videos, speaking to the viewers directly here, and I never think you're wrong, right? Even if you have something bad to say about the game, you're never wrong, right? I mean, it's coming from a place you love Final Fantasy, and Final Fantasy 16 surely is taking an interesting direction. I don't want to say that it's deviating, because I'm going to explain why I don't think it's deviating too far, but it's taking a direction that some fans are kind of like, whoa, maybe on the fence. And we do have Kuma here to kind of provide that voice, right? And my objective here is to listen with an open mind, but then hopefully just kind of like overhand throw them over onto our side of the fence. Just bring them over here.
That's definitely my goal being here too. I want to be thrown over.
Yes, I'm gonna suplex you off the top rope into the into the hype.
Make it a clean suplex.
Yeah, just a nice clean suplex over. But hey, at the end of it, if you're still on the fence, that's fine too. Maybe you get something out of the podcast. That would be great. It's my job as the warrior of hype, the bringer of hype, to do stuff like that. So, first of all, I want to get started with talking about the state of play. And the state of play just happened earlier this week or last week, and it was phenomenal. I thought it did a great job of appealing to a lot of the questions that fans had. There's still some remaining for me as well, I'm sure. And then the response to that has been really, really good, as the sales for Final Fantasy 16 on Amazon's bestseller list. Final Fantasy 16 is now at the tippy top. The deluxe edition is at the tippy top. Not just the standard edition. That one is in number 4. Number 1 is the deluxe edition. People love this thing so much that they went out and pre-ordered the deluxe edition after State of Play, which has overtaken Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which only comes out in maybe next week. So the fact that the bestseller list it's up there on that for Amazon is fantastic. And then over on, I believe this was Press Start, on their website, they did a poll. How would you rate Final Fantasy 16 State of Play live stream? And they had about 1,709 votes, and 55% saying excellent, 23% saying very good, and then only 2% choosing the bottom tier stuff. So that's not bad at all. Now that's from Press Start, right? So that's a PlayStation centric thing. It's not just Final Fantasy, which is something that I like to, I kind of like to do, but it's also kind of torture for myself, because then you have to read through comments, and I'm just like, oh no, I forgot what exists out there on the in the comments section on like Sony's posts, and I was like, oof. But so I kind of like to get where's Spider-Man 2? I get a finger on the pulse of like the gaming community, just because we're Final Fan TV. Obviously, we're gonna get Final fans over here, but I want to see what other people are thinking, and to see that poll and see how well it's doing is that's awesome for me. I love to see it. Now, we're 2 months out. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Before we get into concerns or anything like that, how did you guys feel after coming out of the State of Play? How was it? What was your reactions to that? We'll start with Liam.
Okay. Yeah, so going into the state of play, I've actually remained relatively light on, the Final Fantasy 16 stuff. Like, I'd seen some of the trailers, but I wasn't like diving too deep into anything because I kind of want to go in, you know, we know that Square has a history of spoiling a lot of information, so I kind of was like, I don't mind knowing things, but I don't want to know too many things.
Yeah.
But the state of play definitely caught my attention, and in mostly positive ways. I think, if anything, it made me a lot more hyped than I was even expecting, to be honest. So I'm really, like I'm actually really excited now for it. I mean, I told you I was writing notes during it just for today, so I got to say I'm pleasantly surprised by just how much the state of play did to like pique my interest. I went from like, yeah, I'm definitely interested in this to now like, yeah, now I'm pretty hyped for this. I'm super excited for June to roll around.
What, if I could ask you, like, what in particular about the state of play was like the moment where you went, yeah, I'm in?
Honestly, it was weird because like, I don't know. I remember going into the like state of play and I'm thinking everything that I had felt about it, or rather thought that I felt about it, I'm like, like it is a darker story, which I have no hesitations or problem with, but at the same time I'm like, like I was kind of worried that it might not be as how do I put this? We know Final Fantasy for its like whimsical, more like, zany type, so, while still being serious. So I was afraid that it was almost going to come off like your generic AAA modern title, dark, gloomy. But like, weirdly enough, I think just watching it, I'm like, you know what? I think that what they're showing us, to me at least, as corny as this might sound, I'm like, I definitely see the direction here, and I don't think it's just going to be your typical generic story. I think that, I saw a lot of, just, first of all, the music. I really dig the music. The soundtrack was from what they let us know or let us hear, I was really into that. I was definitely into like a lot of the mechanics they were showing, which I didn't expect to be, because I don't know, at first, like watching it, I'm like, those icon battles were crazy. I didn't expect to be so blown away by that. I'm super, and we'll get into that later.
That's the hook, right? That
was the major hook.
Yeah.
So for me, I was like, you know what, like, and I don't know. I feel like I walked away getting a different idea of what I was getting into, and I kind of want to get into that maybe a bit later, regarding plot at least. So
yeah.
I don't want to take too much time at the start here.
No, okay, yes, that's fair. That's totally fair. We're definitely going to talk about that a lot more. Kuda, how are you feeling coming out of the state of play?
I'm still very much on the side of the fence that is not quite hyped.
Okay.
And I know that's super unpopular opinion. I feel like we anticipated the state of play being very much the reveal of the RPG elements, and I'm still just not feeling that enough.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's beautiful, and it is that like you said, like the music is like, oh my gosh, like it's gonna be worth it just for the soundtrack alone. But I don't know. I'm very much on the opposite side of this, like the spoiler spectrum, I guess, where it's like I feel like I don't know anything about these characters. I don't have any connection to any of them, and I understand that we're going to be in this world that's filled with problems, and that's gonna be where central story. I don't know. I'm not sure what to latch onto, because I'm not latched on to the idea of a revenge story. I don't connect with that at all.
Yeah.
The only character that I'm like in line with is Torgal, because cute puppy. But yeah. I don't know. I'm not convinced yet on the character side of things, which has always been like a huge staple for me in the Final Fantasy series, has been the characters. So I wanted a little bit more of that, even if it's not spoilery. Like, I want more interactions between them that show that it's not just like, I have to kill chaos kind of vibe. Because like I feel like right now, like Clive is like, don't get me wrong, I loved Strangers of Paradise,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like it was kind of for a different reason. Like it knew it was campy and it
Mhm.
leaned real hard into the campy, and 16 is not going that direction, is not leaning into it, but that's the vibe I'm getting, where it's very much Clive is like, revenge right now, and I really want to see more sides to that. I feel like they're purposely not showing us the dimensions of these characters, which is good, and I know a lot of people respect that and want that.
Yeah.
But I need to see that there is more depth to the characters before I'm fully like into it, I guess. So it's that double-edged sword of revealing too much but not, because I'm not super connected yet.
Okay, that's totally fair. Like when it comes to the characters, I mean, I guess we know what we know of them. Like you said, you got Clive. We know that they have this great tragedy that happens with the invasion of Rosaria. We know all that. We know that they get separated. We know that Clive is probably the last of his bloodline now. Like he's the last Rosfeld. He is going to set off on this road to revenge. I think something that might have you a little more enticed to that is that I can't find it. I tried to check the official website. There's so much information out there that I can't find the quote. But I do remember saying that, like a description for Clive, saying that it sets him out onto a road to revenge where he will meet new friends or meet new people that will help him realize that there's more to things than the word he's after. So it kind of like, it's kind of telling you in that description, I wish I could find it, but it was saying that, yeah, he's going to start off the game on this quest for revenge. But through the people that he meets along the way, I think we're going to see a shift in what his objective is, and like what he's he's not always going to be like, I want to kill chaos, like the entire time. I think he's going to eventually become chaos. No,
No, that's the twist we really want.
Yeah, there you go.
No, I definitely remember there being a quote about the game being dark and definitely like revenge story and dark and blah, but then the quote ending with the idea of it, the ending inspiring hope or something along those lines. I certainly remember that being that point of discussion, and I guess I just want to see a little bit more of that, because that's what I sync with, the whimsy and the magic that Liam was talking about. Like that's what I want to see, which is maybe definitely putting me in the minority of players who are super hyped for the dark and gritty direction.
Yeah,
I wanted to say something real quick actually. I don't know if maybe I'm reaching with this, but when I was watching the trailer, or rather the whole state of play, one thing I took away at least was like, I kind of felt the same way. Like there weren't too many characters that I was typically like, or rather, gripping to in a way that I'm like, oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna like, have that person. But at the same time, at least in Clive, which I was surprised by this, because when I first saw who our protagonist was, I'm like, okay, yeah, he's edgy swordsman. In a Final Fantasy. But actually there was a few instances, at least in the state of play. I mean, for starters, the dude's got a dog, and that tells me a lot, like weirdly enough. But the other thing, there's one specific, and I wrote this down. I literally wrote, Clive seems hardened, yet still personable and inherently likable. And I realized that scene, there's a scene when they were talking about like your party members and whatnot, people you can meet, and they show Jill, and they embrace and like a hug. They're like, I guess, childhood friends reunite. And the way, like, it was, not that, I mean, this is not about Seven. Cloud's a great character, but there's a lot of like stereotyping with him, and then you got Squall, who's got a lot, when I saw that, I'm like, I don't think they're gonna go the like, the stereotype, like, he doesn't seem like he's just hard for the sake of being hard. He seems like he will like be someone who you can actually see like a personality shine through. And that was actually, it was weird because like of all like the big bombastic things on the screen, I'm like, the biggest takeaway for me was watching him hug somebody. I'm like,
yeah, I mean, no, that's an excellent point, right? It's the quieter moments that really stood out to me during the state of play. I mean, we saw a little bit of it during the PAX East panel, but during the state of play, we really kind of got to see some interaction with other characters outside of the core that we know, such as like Mid, the girl who I guess I'm assuming maybe she's like a pirate or like a sailor. I don't know. She looked like she was getting off a boat, but like to be able to interact with like Mid, like when did you get back? Like, and they like the smiles on their face, and like she's like out saving the world, like so kind of like you had that saving the world still, like there was like that interaction there, and I was like, just that little bit was enough for me to go, yeah. And then of course, like you said, hugging Jill and like that little interaction there between those two, Sid biting an apple. For me, that was like, that's just like, it's cool. It's a cool little moment, right? It's a lighthearted moment rather than just like always so dreary. And it's something like I wouldn't say Game of Thrones. They did have some sprinkled in some comedy in between, but like, just like you wouldn't kind of see that like just biting an apple and just walking away type thing, like, yeah, I'm just doing it. Maybe you would. I'm just saying that it's not going to be all dark and grim all the time. And then there was this character named Goats or Goetz or Goats
or whatever. Yeah,
Gots.
Goats.
And he just seems like a Final Fantasy character to me. Just the fact that he's like that not whimsical, but maybe like that eccentric character where maybe he's a little dim-witted. Maybe he's like he's this big brutish guy, but then he's like all timid and stuff when he like
a heart of gold.
Yeah, like he's like all of it. You paid all of it, right? And it's like he just seems like he's really, but he's like this huge dude. Yeah. So it's just kind of like, there's those moments that I got out of the State of Play, like, okay, so when we're in the Hideaway, we are going to meet people that are going to be, they're living their lives, and their lives, maybe, their hometown wasn't invaded, and like, so they're going to be a little more upbeat. Clive is going to meet friends along the way. He met Mid. We don't know what Mid did for him. Like, obviously it was something to where, like, maybe got him out of a jam or something, but they're friends, right? You could see that smile on their face, and it's just, and then when you talked about that moment of him hugging Jill, one thing that I always put in every freaking video I make almost, like, especially any, like, hype trailer I'm building up to, I always kind of end it with this moment where he, like, runs toward, like, he's, like, slowly runs and then starts to kind of stumble a little bit to Joshua, like, there he is, there's Joshua. Joshua is still a 10-year-old boy when he sees him, but he's 30. I don't know what that is, but like, he hasn't seen him in so long, and you can see like him just kind of run up to him like in disbelief. There's Joshua, and like he kind of falls to his knees, and like Joshua kind of gives a little smile, and like Clive's got tears. I'm like, dude, we are in for such an emotional and like heartfelt journey. Just that moment there, then you blend it in with all these moments that we just talked about with the other characters. It's just like, yeah, I think we're going to have depth. I think we're going to have, we are going to have some light comedic elements sprinkled in. I can go ahead. I don't know. I would go ahead and say that I don't think we're going to see a giant Moogle, with like, stuffed move. I don't think we're going to see Torgal get shot from a slingshot from the arm. I don't think we're going to see
too soon. I mean, maybe goats, whatever. Just
freaking shoot Torgal out of him.
No, but actually, I think just to hark on that point, I think weirdly enough, and maybe for Kuda to the point where like maybe you feel like they're not showing enough. I actually feel like the approach of letting the personality shine subtly is almost, to me, it's almost making me feel more interconnected, because when something's shown to you, I mean, obviously you can resonate with something that's like blatantly 100% there for you to take. But if there's something that you have to like, so like going back on the hug thing, because that's like, we all saw that in the State of Play. Like, I looked at him hugging Jill. You see this like look in his eyes. He's not like, it's not like this look of like, oh yeah, hey Jill, like it's been a while. Like, there's this like look of like, he obviously cares for Jill. Now, we don't really know too much. We know they're childhood friends. They said that in the trailer. But like, when there's subtlety, to me, there are people in my life who I might hug that same way. Someone who I knew when I was like, 10, 12, 13 years old. Haven't seen them in a few years, and I see them again. I just go embrace them. To me, the subtlety in that makes for a more relatable character. And I, weirdly enough, got much more, I wouldn't say like attached because I don't know Clive as a character truly yet, but I would say now I want to get attached to him. And I didn't feel that way with every other trailer I saw up to this point. And it was the subtle things in this, seeing how, he runs to Joshua, seeing the hug, seeing like just him with these other people, him and his dog.
Yeah.
Like,
Give him a treat.
like, yeah, give him a treat. You should give that good boy a treat.
Yeah.
But, no, like, I feel like they're painting, at least to me, this idea of like, this is not going to be the typical, like, super expressive adventure. I feel like it's almost going to be like, in a weird way, like obviously there's going to be like the big explosive moments in the battles and whatnot, but I feel like the quiet moments are going to speak the loudest in this game. I just have that like feeling, at least from what I'm getting, that they're painting this picture of like, like the subtle things, the quiet things, just like the most reflective moments are going to be the ones that really drive that connection between you, the character, and the characters themselves. So
yeah, like just with all those iconic clashes, the big epic clashes, it really makes those stand out. I agree. So Kuda, do you have like let's just stick with the topic of characters, right? What else you got for like character wise? Is there any other concerns that you have?
I mean, I think that definitely the obvious ones for sure are definitely the lack of diversity. I think that is, it's obviously something that's not going to get addressed. I mean, they kind of already did, but I feel like a lot of the characters and maybe like the designs of the characters are also why I'm not like immediately connected with them. I feel like a lot of them aren't. I don't know. There's not a lot of bright colors. There's not a lot of like everything's like pretty muted. And like I said, I'm very much more on terms of like the whimsy and that kind of vibe. So that's just a personal preference for me. But I feel like a lot of them kind of blend together. I don't remember half their names because they didn't stand out to me yet. But hopefully that will change as we get to know them. But we're not seeing a lot of some of these characters. So again, double-edged sword on that because you don't want to spoil too much, but also like now I feel like I don't know anything about them. But I also like I don't know, I kind of I don't know, like me personally, like I super resonate with healer type characters 100%, and I feel like we don't really have a strong one of those, at least as of right now. And so that it's kind of like, okay, well, who do I like? Typically, when a game is announced, I pick a character that I'm like latching onto because I'm like, all right, I like their design, I like the like the trope that they're filling into, even though they're gonna break it, hopefully. But I don't have one of those other than Torgal right now.
Maybe Torgal's the healer if you're lucky.
I was gonna say, yeah, Torgal's kind of your white mage in this situation. He's the only one that has the heal ability. Like
he has the healing lick. He'll just like come up, heals you full on HP heal. So yeah,
the dream.
Yeah, the dream. Yeah, go ahead.
I guess I also am super disappointed that like pretty much everyone fights with swords. I feel like that is a big we're making like this is a fantasy game, and I feel like all of the not all of the previous entries, but at least a good chunk of them all have varying weapons that the characters can use, and like it adds to their design that like Lulu, like you can't imagine Lulu without like the crazy like plushie or something, and like that just screams fantasy, because in the real world you're not going to be fighting with a voodoo doll, like that's just not possible. And so to lean into the like we're all swordsmen, like I feel like that's like a I don't know, it's a little disappointing for me personally. I don't know. I want to see
if I can add on to that one. Right. I want to kind of like jump in on that one real quick, is that everybody's a swordsman, right? So everybody's like using swords, but you also like it's kind of, I have to bring it up even though I know exactly what you mean. I know what you mean. Like you're talking about Lulu with the with her little stuffed animals and the big megaphones and all that other stuff, like a blitz ball, throwing a ball at somebody's face. Like I guess that we're gonna believe that this ball is hurting this giant monster. But like I get that. But I also kind of have to say, like, it's not when you think about it, it's not really all swords. If you go to like, I mean, when Clive inherits some of these icons, he's using claws, like he's using his
Yeah.
claw, like a claw attack. He's got this big giant fist that comes up. He's got I don't know. It kind of goes like using the icons' abilities and stuff. Kind
Yeah.
of brings that fantasy in, where it's not all just swords. Like when you're fighting the standard enemies, that's where I'm like, yeah, I get it, because all the standard enemies that you kind of run into, they seem like they all have just swords, but they
I know that we saw one like dragoon, so they definitely
Yeah.
have some enemy types that are gonna have a little bit of variation.
Yep.
But
There was a
like,
mage as well.
Oh.
There was a mage. They didn't call it a mage because it was a Norse word. It was a Norse word for battle mage. Like when I was doing a breakdown video, I looked up the Norse word, and it was directly translated to battle mage. So you can expect that this battle mage is going to be using magic and all this other stuff, and
Yeah.
probably standing a little bit further back. There was in the arena, or the training, the Arete Stone, that's what it's called. When you go into the Arete Stone and you're looking for enemies to fight, there's a couple of them that will say close range, and then there's some that say long range enemies. So these long range enemies, obviously they're going to be doing something other than swords. We just don't know.
yeah.
But I totally again, I can go back to saying I totally get what you're saying, because
Yeah.
you're not going to be throwing a ball at somebody. Like it's not going to have that fun aesthetic to the weaponry. And
Right.
that's where you're coming from, and I get that.
Well, did they show everybody? I mean, I can't imagine they showed every party member where to get.
That's
which
another
maybe
thing.
there is still room to.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping, like, I mean, like, I want, like, give me somebody who's like an archer or something. Like, it doesn't even have to be fantastical weapons, but I just want some kind of diversity.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, like I said, I connect with the white mage type, so I really want to see somebody holding a giant
Staff.
stick.
Yeah.
And,
That is interesting. To think that we haven't seen any archery. like now that you bring that up, I'm like, no bow and arrows yet. Like that is
Or even a
interesting.
crossbow or something like
Maybe we have seen a
something.
crossbow. I can't remember.
I was gonna say, I feel like I saw a crossbow,
Yeah.
but I don't know if it was in State of Play or another trailer. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not sure. And, like, it's not a deal breaker by any means of the word, like, it's not, but I do think that it's something that I feel like all of the previous entries have really, amplified. Like even a lot of the earlier ones where you can, like the old ones, like you pick the job classes and each of them have like a super specialized or like a diversity of weapon types that they can use.
Yeah.
And we don't see that. Like even Clive using something different would be cool if we're not going to be able to like adjust the party members' weapons, which is another concern of mine.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I love to. I don't know. Weapon designs are usually so cool, and there are so many cool ones. And I will say it. Like, I know that we've seen some designs from previous games showing up as the weapons you can customize in 16. I'm pretty sure I saw that. I don't know if it's real or not.
I know that we definitely have seen a Kate Sith like accessory. It's like a little Kate Sith paw, but it's not a weapon. And then we've seen the Braveheart from Final Fantasy 1. Yeah.
those pre-order bonuses, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Or I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I know the Kate Sith one specifically.
Yeah.
I think was a pre-order bonus for like
Still
deluxe.
swords. Still a sword. But yeah, like
Sword.
I really like Clive's sword. I like the one that's in the posters, and it has like the like this like 3 prongs kind of going down with on the hilt. I think that's such a cool sword. And I kind of want to make one for myself. I feel like,
Hey, you should.
yeah, no, man. Like for myself, I think that sword is almost, it's becoming iconic to me. Every time I see it, I'm like, I like that freaking sword. And it seems like it's a set of 7, so we're probably going to get different variations of that. And maybe the 7th one will be like this ultimate one, like the Ultima weapon or something. But yeah, I mean, like, I kind of like the aesthetics of the sword that he's rocking in the posters and stuff. But I know exactly what you mean by like the whimsical kind of weaponry. I think the icons are going to kind of be that management for you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of like the icon ability trees and everything like that. That's you messing with your other teammates who are within you. You know what I mean? Like there's all within Clive, but there are other different party members. Like the icons are your different parties. And if you think about like Final Fantasy VII Remake, swapping between the characters, you're just swapping between the characters within Clive. And it does seem to change the way Clive moves. I know I read that in an interview, and I've seen it somewhat in the footage that we've gotten. But like when Clive goes Bahamut mode, you can see that he's got like a wing, and he almost kind of like hovers a little bit more really gracefully across the battlefield. And then when you go Odin, my God, Odin looks like he's like, I don't know, maybe a thief or a monk type thing, like where he's just like going all over the place, man. He's so fast, but he's also kind of, from what I was trying to keep notice of the damage indicators, it looked like he was doing a little less damage, but he's got this speed to him.
Maybe DPS. Like he might just be
he's DPS.
Which everything seems DPS in this game. I will say that. Like
Titan is like he goes into a big tank mode because it like when he goes Titan, you can see. Yeah, he's going a lot slower, and he's like, you know, and when you do it, you know, you gotta get that guttural. But he's got the slow attacks, and like it changes up the way he plays. And I kind of like that. If we're not able to customize our party, and that is something I will admit, that is something that I'm kind of like, man, it's that menu management that I really enjoy as well as you. So like messing around with like how I want my party members to be, and like kind of coming up with the best set of equipment for them, abilities for them, and things like that. I think is kind of, it's like, man, we're gonna have a lot to manage with icons alone, and then it's like finding the right combinations, because you're only allowed to have like 2 abilities per icon, and you're only allowed to have 3 icons equipped at one time. So it's kind of like, okay, well, I have 4 icons, how do I find the best combination? And from what I've read, it's kind of like Final Fantasy V. So whereas if you master an ability for one icon, you can bring it over to a different icon. So you can like, it's like that job class from Final Fantasy V. And then you can finally come up with, by the end of the game, you have your set. The one thing that brings me a big concern when it comes to that is I haven't seen anything that deals with, I don't want to say strategy, but because that feels like it might be a little harsh. But I haven't seen anything that deals with strategy, like status ailments. We saw a Malboro, but we haven't seen Clive get confused or poisoned. It's just like, hey, here's a big Marlboro. How are you going to make it look stylish when you kill him? Which is cool. I like that it's an action game, but I'm also kind of like, man, it's a Marlboro, though. The whole thing about a Marlboro is getting messed up like by its statuses. So that's one thing that I would love to see in the next info drop, is like, give me, okay, I have a Marlboro to fight. If I use Phoenix's abilities, if I use fire, is that going to be effective? And I can't remember the exact quote, but I just remember reading something that said you wouldn't have to worry about like elemental damages and stuff. And I said, whoa, can we elaborate? Elaborate on that. What's the purpose of all these icons other than looking stylish and getting the right combinations that you want to juggle enemies and make it look cool? Other than that, what's the purpose of having icons of different elements if they're not going to affect each other? We did see in one of the trailers, he was fighting an Adamantoise, and he used a fire attack on the Adamantoise, and it caught fire. But I don't know if that's just it'll do that to any enemy.
Visual thing, or if
So it's something that I would love to see in a future thing. Where's the depth in terms of like strategy? Where's the depth in terms of like, man, I'm going up against an ice enemy next. I know that. So I'm gonna put Phoenix and Ifrit as my 2 icons I'm gonna swap between. You know what I mean?
I can't imagine that you're gonna put this much emphasis on summons that are known for elemental abilities and are not gonna actually like play into that, like, you know, gameplay. Like I can't imagine that would be the case, but again, it's kind of weird because we haven't seen any info on that. Right. So that is a little, like, I don't know, it is a little strange, I'm not gonna lie, but I have hope that at least at some point between now and its release, that they will shed some light on that.
I'd like to jump to chat real quick. I just want to point out that Skytron says that they did show, they definitely shown vulnerability pop up. So like, so when you're doing an attack, it says like iconic vulnerability or something like that. So I do remember that. That is a good point. But yeah, so I just wanted to throw that out there.
But is it like vulnerability in like 15 almost, where like you just like do enough like I don't know death? Like, I
15 was awesome when you used magic in that. Like it caught the whole battlefield on like and it froze it or something like that, or caught it on fire. I did like that.
No, I like, but yeah, it just makes me want like. You know, or sometimes you can do like just a hefty warp strike and somebody's suddenly vulnerable, you know, like, is it...
Oh, you mean, okay, got you.
Yeah, that's what I'm more so like, for like, if is someone vulnerable because you like did a crit, basically, like, did you critical somebody to the point now where they're like, you know, vulnerable, or is there like strategic element to it? Which, I mean, there is strategy in that, if you know that, for example, you know, like with 15, for example, you know, like getting a blindsided warp strike is going to most likely lead to a vulnerable enemy. Yeah. Perhaps there is that element of strategy, like, you know, and I kind of want to say that the one thing about Clive's combat in this, I don't know if it's just because I'm playing 15 right now, but him warping, it gives me a lot of Noctis vibes, like the way he's warping around and whatnot.
The
like,
Phoenix has that Phoenix Shift ability, which is basically the warp strike. Yeah.
Okay, so this is where you're coming in handy, because I didn't know if that was just an inherent, like, I guess technically it is sort of an inherent ability of his, but like I wasn't sure if it was something that like he always did, or if that's something that's like equipped, or if that's something that, you know, like was like part of an accessory or like the jewel, whatever. Like I didn't know how that came into play.
I mean, that's where the fun. That's
he was whipping around a lot. I was like, this dude flies.
Yeah, that's where the fun begins on like coming up with your whatever you like best in terms of equipping your abilities and icons and stuff. So it's like, oh man, you want to close the distance quickly. You want to get the Phoenix Shift in there. Close the distance. Do that. Maybe go in with that, and then like scoop attack them up there, because you've seen that wing ability that Phoenix can do, like where it scoops the enemy up into the air. You switch over to Odin, which has this he has this move that he can like slice the air and then like basically not even leave the ground, but just keep slicing him in the air when he's up there. And then you can like switch over to freaking Titan, jump up there and freaking pile drive him with a fist. And it's just like, there's so many different fun ways to do it. But yeah, that's...
It's weird. It reminds me almost of like a balanced Dynasty Warrior, because in that game you're like you're going crazy on like, you know, you're meant to be broken, but like the combat, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. I actually really liked, like, just between the UI and maybe to an absurd degree the flashing like symbols and whatnot. It reminded me a lot of like those like old school like arcadey kind of like, you know, almost like the Dynasty Warriors. Even a bit of like, weirdly enough, like early Monster Hunter, like just like there was this like, between the UI and like
it's definitely bringing the big health bar at the top.
Dude, I didn't think I would like them, but when I was looking at them, like I kind of liked, in a weird way, like it just was like a really nice, like for me at least, like this like flashback to some games that like I particularly enjoy, you know. Looking back on, weirdly enough, I mean, as a big Monster Hunter fan, the UI for some reason reminded me a lot of Monster Hunter, and I was like, okay, like I could get behind this. Whereas everybody else in the world who's not a Monster Hunter fan would go, "It's a cluttered UI. What do you mean you can get behind that?" And I'm like, no, I like it. I like every corner of my screen having something going on. Like,
yeah, I mean, this is definitely a preference. Like for me personally, I'm like, please give me some options here. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I was like, man, I hope that they show in the next one, but maybe they won't even. I don't know why they would even want to say, hey, look, now we're gonna show you that there's an option to do this. I don't know if there's gonna be a backlash, or like if there's even a conversation enough for them to want to address it in the next info drop. But I really am hoping that they kind of take note from Final Fantasy XIV. It's obviously the same team working on it, so they know. But it's like, in Final Fantasy XIV, you can customize the UI you can make elements smaller. You can make them go away if you don't want them to be there on the screen. You can move them around the screen if you wanted to. Something that I would like to do is kind of just get rid of the numbers that pop up. In arcade mode, that's cool. Like, I love to see the arcade mode. I want to see what the score I'm getting as I'm doing my combos. But in the game, I kind of don't want it. I don't want those numbers to be popping up every time I hit him. I got his health bar in the top right. I can see what damage I'm doing. I don't really need them to show me that, hey, you're doing 25, 25, 25, 25, 25, you know, like, just like pop it up. But yeah.
To me, that definitely is like part of the RPG-ness of it.
Okay.
Like if you get rid of the numbers, then it is purely arcade action vibe, which I mean, if that's what you want to do, then that's
see, that's what's beautiful about it, right? It's like we got three of us sitting right now, and we have different opinions, which is good, but it's like I'm sitting here thinking like, oh, get rid of the UI, that kind of stuff, and you're like, hey, no, wait, I want that. That's my RPG elements that I want. Just don't get rid of that. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's just
everything on the screen.
And then over here with Liam, yo, give me everything. Give me.
I don't even want to see Clive. I just want numbers. I want health bars. I want
a live feed of what you're doing, which they have in the Arete Stone, which is kind of cool. Like on the left side, like live feed of every input you made. Here's your controller.
That's a little too much for me.
Yeah.
I didn't catch that. They have
that. So when you go into the training mode, they even have the controller prompt on the in the above the abilities.
Sick.
Where like what button you're pressing.
Fighting game practice mode or something.
And I'm kind of like,
awesome.
I was kind of like, man, you know, even that. Let's give that an option during the actual game rather than just in the Arete Stone. Like, can we have that during the actual game? So for people like Liam who want this stuff, give us options to customize that. That is one thing that's one concern that I've had personally, where I'm just like, man, I would like to see some customization with the UI. Now going back to, I do want to kind of go back to what Kuda was saying about like diversity. They did address that in the like he addressed it whether you liked it or not. he gave you an explanation.
Actually, I might be a voice for some people in the chat here because I actually don't know the statement. So if you could give a brief synopsis,
well, I don't know.
Historical accuracy.
Yeah, actually, just. If you want, just actually put the whole document on the screen.
I'll give you, it is a document.
Oh, really?
Like that was the problem right off the get go. It was a couple paragraphs long, and I was like, ugh.
Right, give me the spark notes.
Basically, what Kuda said: historical accuracy, trying to be more of like medieval Europe during the time, which is a little sketchy of a statement there, but yeah, and so that was the basically summing up everything he said was kind of like, hey, this is just a corner of the world. This is Valisthea's 2 continents in a world that is much larger, and I'm not defending it. I'm just saying what he said. It's just
actually not to defend it or anything, but that might actually lead to some interesting elements that either A, we don't know about yet, that he hasn't shown us, because if he's saying that it's a small part of a larger world that we just haven't seen, like that to me can mean one of two things: either we haven't seen it yet, or might be some late end game or post game content.
So
I don't know.
In one of my breakdowns,
be locked behind a paywall, but I don't know.
In one of my breakdowns, though, there is mention of a southern continent that we have not seen before. So the fact that they call it the Twins, which is Storm and Ash, the 2 continents, and then there's a southern continent that's not on the map that we've seen. That is an opportunity, maybe. But I feel like he would have gotten ahead of that if there was in some sort of inclusion. But that is a concern that I think could be addressed if I want to give a little bit of hope that there is a southern continent. Although they have so much available for right now that I don't think we're going there. You know, it's there.
It's just there.
The other part of the statement was something along the lines of how visual and racial diversity would take away from the diversity of their personalities of some sort. So he didn't want people to have preconceived notions about the character based on what they look like. So if everybody looks the same kind of vibe, that then you're judging them based on their personality, which again, I feel like is a really cop-out answer not a good one. But
the things that they're dealing with in this story, though, would probably get a little bit iffy.
I don't know. I feel like that's the we know that it's not actually historically accurate that dark skinned people didn't exist in medieval Europe, but also I feel like that's the beauty of a fantasy world, is to be able to make it so racial diversity doesn't matter, or it does, whatever it is, but you can really like I don't know, it doesn't have to be similar to the real world, and I feel
Yeah.
like that was a big missed opportunity, especially after games like 7 Remake, where
Oh yeah.
the
Very.
cast, the not only the playable cast, but like the cast of extras are also very diverse, and
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's, I don't know, that was a
It's
big
definitely a
miss for me.
concern. Yeah, it's definitely to the point where we're just now everybody's kind of like, well, we just got to accept it. Like to the
Yeah.
point where because he did specifically address it, and it's like aside from all of the other like concerns that we have during like we've talked about right now, where it's kind of like.
Mhm.
I have something for you. Wait, this one I'm like, yeah, he's kind of already gotten that one. I got nothing.
Yep.
I nothing other than saying that there is a southern continent that hasn't been shown,
Right.
explored, talked about. Although we do know that they're like they worship the lands as their gods. It's really all we know, that there's a southern continent with presbyters that worship the land as their gods. But they also make the best weaponry that they trade with the twins, is what they call it. So that's all we've gotten on it. So there is that's all I gotta say. Like there is an opportunity there, but when it comes to there is a rumor to address it's like a rumor that could possibly get some more inclusion in some way, which is the I guess I don't know if I want to say if it's a spoiler. It's not. It's a rumor, but it could be a spoiler. So in case you want to mute the next part, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can skip to the next chapter of the video. But yeah, basically, rumor has it that Dion could be gay. So that could be bringing in some LGBTQ representation into the game, and that is a very prominent character. We're talking about the dominant of Bahamut, the god of God, the king of the gods.
We say that, and yet we know we've seen so little of him.
He
So
could be
it's-
very, very important at this point. The fact that we
Hopefully.
haven't seen it. Yeah.
It's either he's very important or he's just one of the, like a mid boss type deal. Which hopefully not. I'd imagine not.
No, I imagine not. If you're going to call him, if he's the dominant Bahamut, there's got to be something there. Yeah. Bahamut
Right.
is always important.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. Bahamut was the important character in Final Fantasy 15. So it's like, I mean, this is the king of the gods, right? So I mean, in the mythology, the mythos and stuff like that. So if that is the case, there could be a reason why we haven't seen much of Dion.
This is true.
But and then a lot of people are saying, "Show me Dion next info drop." And I mean, we haven't seen Barnabas either, and what he's all about. What's his motivations other than like, hey, this is a conqueror over in Westeros or Essos, coming over to Westeros, and he's going to take over, you know. Yes, I used Game of Thrones. I knew it.
Yeah, I'm not a Game of Thrones fan. I'm
He's
like,
the Daenerys over there. Like, wait, what's he doing over there? You know. But yeah, I mean, we got him over there conquering an entire continent because he don't care. He's just going to use his icon all the time. Doesn't matter if he turns to stone. He's just going to keep using it. And he conquered an entire continent. Now he's coming over. That's all we really know. So, and then with Dion, we know that he was upset about something that I guess his daddy was saying. And like he was just like he was gripping his spear, like, walking and marching into there. You know, that was all we've gotten of Dion. Really, we haven't even heard him talk. So there is
At
something.
one point fights Phoenix.
Yeah. So the fact that if that is representation with Dion, I think that is great. I don't think they need to like make it a big deal, but like the fact that it's there is I think it's great. I think it's great because like other than that, we've only got what Vanille and Fang as the which aren't really specified. We just kind of interpreted that way.
And I think that would be my caveat. Like if they're going to lean into hey, we're not super diverse, but we got a gay character, but then they don't like explicitly say it or address it, make it canon, then it's kind of like, but is he though?
Yeah, is he though? Yeah, like I love what they did with Andrea in Final Fantasy VII Remake. Like we know it doesn't have to be like in your face about it or anything like that, but we know. And then even I think Austin Lee Matthews is pushing for Roach to,
Yes.
So I think that would make sense. It doesn't have to be explicitly said, but yeah, I mean, I think there is opportunity. Well, why not either? Yeah, I mean, why not? Yeah, I mean, it's just as long as it's not, as long as it's like, hey, make him an important character, not just a throw in. And the fact that it's Dion, I mean, there's just could be, you know what I mean?
I do think that it. I mean, we've obviously seen Garuda. I forget what her name is, but her and I think it's Sid in bed together in one of the trailers.
Yes, yeah.
And so, like, if you're gonna go that far, like, at least give me a gay kiss, like something. Like, come on, like, let's make it even. Let's make it.
Hey, yo, let's make it even. I like that. Let's make it even. Yeah, I mean, so there's opportunity there, and we don't know anything. We're all just speculation right now. But what's up, Liam?
No, I said that's fair.
Yeah, that's fair.
I didn't. Make it even.
No, I think that covers everything about. Oh no, yeah, no. I want to make sure I got everything. I made notes as well about characters. I wanted to talk about. We talked about maybe character management. That one thing I did want to bring up again. To go back to character management. Now you can even see it in this like recreation of the UI that I made for this podcast. That little where it says hype versus concern, it has that little carrot, right? Now I bring this up a lot, so if you watch our show a lot, you know what I'm about to say. But the carrot for any kind of graphic designer or UI design, it's a drop-down menu, right? So to have the carrot, and then it would go carrot down and bring up a list of your people. So what would it? A list of options. So it says Clive in the actual, in the actual UI. It says Clive, but why? Why specify Clive if it? Yeah, it's the only person we're controlling. The only person we can manage. So you don't need to tell us we're managing Clive. We see that. So for me, it's a conscious effort or a conscious decision to put that indication that you're working with Clive right now. And then in the bottom right-hand corner of the menu, it says party members, and I love it. It's got the classic pixel art.
Yeah, like that a lot.
Super cute.
Yeah, so it makes me think. I mean, if it's there, you can customize your. At least you can manage them in some way. But I don't know. I can't even I feel like if there was this option, they would have talked about it by now. And that's yeah.
I was going to say, do we know how many party members, at least by now? Like, I know that we have Sid. It seems like he's, like, a party member. And then, obviously, Torgal's, like, I would say a permanent party member.
In and out. They're going to interchange a lot during the story, is what they're...
So, that was one thing I was... Because one thing I actually do like, and I actually talked about this with you privately, was linearity. I do like that this seems to be a more linear... story, at least, it does seem like there's like side quests, hunts, and all that.
Yes.
But, the one thing I will say is like, if the party members are interchangeable, like, by force, like, it's because they are needed for a certain part of the story, that's totally fine. I mean, that's kind of like how like Remake handles it, or obviously the original 7 in some parts. But I am curious, is there going to be a point where we do have the option of choosing who can accompany us? Or is it strictly going to be who is needed at what time, or whose time is it to shine during this segment of the game?
Definitely the latter option, I think. Definitely the latter one. Like, it's going to be predetermined, in my opinion. I think it's just
well, I mean, I would... Because, not for nothing, I'm totally fine with that if it leads to, which, obviously one thing that I think we all appreciate Final Fantasy for is strong characters. If it's going to develop and grow the characters, then by all means, force, Goot, Goat, Grut, whatever, into my party. Force it. Yeah, if he's got to be there to develop his character, by all means, do it. Yeah. But, it does beg the question, for example, maybe not in the story, but if there's if we're in the hub area, what the hideout, Sid's hideout, who's to say that? I feel like they would have maybe shown this, but I maybe have that hope of hey, if you want to go on a hunt, maybe by a certain point of the story, if you've had, if Jill's a party member, Sid's a party member, and you've had Goot, Goat, Grut, if you've had all of them, I'm gonna keep calling him.
Yeah, we're just gonna just change his name every time we say it.
Yeah, exactly. So Goose,
Yeah, Goose.
you know, like if you've had all of them in the party at some point, is it just going to be interchangeable, or like maybe you unlock them for specific content, perhaps? Like, oh yeah, you know, you want to bring him on a hunt or something, or on a side. Again, I feel like they would have shown that, but maybe I'm reaching, maybe I'm hoping too much. But
yeah,
like,
I think we might get to the point where it's kind of like we're coming up with ideas that the developers are like, yeah, we wish we could. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know
that.
necessarily if they're going to do it. Maybe they surprise me, but I really think that when you go on a hunt, it's just going to be you. You're not going to be able to bring whoever's at the hideaway with you, even though that is a fantastic idea. Like that, like if you have Jill,
it's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, if Guetze is sitting in the the hideaway, why can't I bring him along?
No, but like,
but yeah, I don't know if that's going to necessarily be a thing. But yeah,
probably not. Yeah. But it's just the type of thing where I think like, because I get it. Yeah. We're now kind of entering the point where like things are getting predetermined. Like obviously, it's not like in 1997 where it was just text boxes in Final Fantasy VII where you can interchange everybody.
Yeah,
and there wasn't as much weight to like who had to be there.
It's going to make it's going to be very interesting to see how Final Fantasy VII Rebirth handles it, right? Because like in remake it was kind of like, oh, hey, here's the reason why it's just you three, because the other two are doing
like
their own
that in
thing.
the original. It was like that up to that point in the original anyway.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken,
but then you get the PHS system, and it's like, okay, so when if I'm working with my three here, what are the other guys doing? Like, like what's so there has to be an explanation at this point. But for Final Fantasy 16, I think it's all about just kind of building Clive. So like these characters that he meets along the way are definitely going to have their own personalities and their own stories and things that they have to deal with, which is what they've specifically said. Like each one of them are dealing with their own thing, and they all have their own motives and stuff, which is really cool. So they might go off on their own. Like Subtext says over in chat, where he's like, it's very much like God of War, where they're going to just interchange, right? So you're not always fighting alongside Atreus. Sometimes you'll bring in somebody else to fight alongside you. And I think that's kind of how it's going to be. I've even seen instances in some of the trailers and footages that Torgal's not with you, but you're at a high level, but where did Torgal go? Which had me. I was a little scared. I was a little. I'm like, where's my buddy? But then later on, I've seen footage where Clive's at a higher level than that, and Torgal's back. So at some point, Torgal must have went off and did something with.
He's off perfecting his white mage class.
Yeah,
he's doing sides. He's finding a big stick to use as a staff. It's not just for fetch. I promise you.
Man.
Yeah,
and then that's the dream.
that's like he comes back standing on two legs and he's got a staff and a beard.
He's like, I used this to play fetch with. Now it's my staff.
Now it's my staff. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, like I think that's kind of how that's gonna go. What, Kuda, you had something to say. I was gonna move on, but what do you got to say?
No, I was just like one of the things that like the state of play showed was like the different like quests and stuff and how you can travel like at any time to do all those. I'm really curious about like if they're forcing the characters at certain points. Like let's say you're at a segment where you're at the hideout and Sid is walking around with you. Is he only there for the story moments and you go out and do all of these quests by yourself? Or is it like, oh, I have this party member now, let's do all these quests while I have party member help? That'll be really interesting. So kind of controlling when you have parties along with you, but also not.
That's interesting, because he said you could talk to me in my chambers when you're ready to go, but you could also accept different side quests. So I wonder if like, hey, I accepted this side quest, will Sid come join me, since he's already been there. That's a good, interesting point. What's up?
Or does that mean that just side quests aren't available during story moments? Like if there's something heavily going on where Jill's traveling with you, can you take a break and do a side quest afterward and she's going along with you, or does she stop there, or what's going on?
I think it's very much going to be like God of War in the sense of, I don't know, have you ever played God of War?
I have not yet.
Okay, yeah, it's fantastic.
I didn't play the new one or anything like that. I played like the original one. Like, yeah, it's been a while.
Fantastic games too. But for God of War 2018 and Ragnarok, it was kind of like, hey, you have this hub that you go back. Like after you do your story quest, you come back to this hub, and then there's side quests all around, right? That you can accept. It's loosely like that, I guess. But I think what we're going to get is, hey, here's your. They've already said that's going to be stages and areas or something. Zones, yeah, something like that. So it's like, hey, you're about to go to that castle, what we've seen in the Garuda fight demo. Once you start that adventure, like you go up there and you say, all right, Sid, I'm ready to go. I think that's going to be like, okay, you're ready to go. Like, there's no more side quests until you're done with that. You fight Garuda, the icon versus icon thing, and then finally you get to go back to the Hideaway. And then once you're back there, now you got more side quests you can do. And then you got the next step of whatever the story is, and maybe that story leads you to the Dalmekian Republic, which is down there and it was like, hey, here's a base zone type thing. And you saw that there was a lot of side quests around that area. So now you go down here and you don't return to the Hideaway, you return to this Dalmekian Republic space. And now here's your hub now where you can accept more side quests. You can maybe even go back to the Hideaway if you want to, get some side quests from there that you didn't do earlier. And I think it's going to progress that way, which I think is very much a Final Fantasy progression. Like where it's, like, if you go back to the older Final Fantasies, it's gated exploration. Like, hey, here's a section for you. Now we're going to give you another section. I think that's awesome. And I think that's how it's going to work out. But once you hit that stage, like once you hit like, okay, I'm ready to go fight Titan now, it's going to be like, you're ready to go. You're not going to be able to deviate from this for a while until you finish this stage. And then wherever the hub is going to be next. I mean, shoot, we even saw them take off on a ship in the water, man. And like, it's just kind of like, is that going to be the new hub? Like, where are we going? Are we going over to Ash now? Like, is the ship? Are we going to be able to just kind of sail around on the ship, and that's where we're going to see Gwent? Like, is he going to be there? Is this where everybody's going to be at now on the ship? And then you can accept side quests there, and maybe you can even take the freaking ship to different locations that you've already been. It's going to be great.
Like a traveling hub would be kind of cool.
Yeah, like a traveling hub. Maybe that. And,
I would love it.
I'm just going to go ahead and say it. That ship was already equipped with some fallen technology, and I think all we're going to need now is some boosters to get up and going up to the sky. And when we're up in the sky, is that going to be a hub?
Like, boosters get us go fly. Yeah, he's in, the big lovable lunk's going to carry everything we need. We'll just. It'll be like in Red Dead when they build the house together. The whole crew just attach the boosters, and they're gonna.
It's gonna be beautiful. It's gonna be a beautiful thing. All the friends you met along the way, you're gonna build an airship together. It's gonna be good.
Torgal will captain.
Yeah, Torgal captains. You saw that he was the captain of the sailboat. Like he stood.
Exactly.
Like
exactly.
Are we?
He's qualified.
It's training.
Are we going to control that? It looked like it was a cutscene. I will say, I don't know if we're going to be able to sail on the open seas. I don't want to get anybody excited, but it looked like.
Wait, that just reminded me of something which I just briefly wanted to say because I don't want to go like too far into this. But I know obviously Clive is like the protagonist when we're not switching out the characters. But did you notice that playable segment with Joshua?
Yeah,
I thought that was interesting, and I'm like, will this be a thing with like other characters? Because that, like, going back to 7, that was one of the more interesting parts of the story is when you take control of someone. So
we play as like Dion and get his experience of what happened. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, dude, that is a really good point. And
up to this point,
back. Yeah,
I was gonna say up to this point, I was under the impression Clive is strictly it from the beginning, and I get it. Like, it's not like Joshua is gonna be someone we can like interchange to at any point, or like can have in a party where we can switch to. It's not like I get that Sidolphus is not going to be someone we could switch to, but will we have moments where like maybe Clive is out of commission, maybe he's hurt from a battle, maybe he's recovering from something, or maybe he just wants to play with Torgal.
Maybe he's just resting. You know, we get a look at
Gonzel Goose will go out and do what he needs to do when you're playing his. You know, like just like I want to. I don't know, like that did catch my eye though, especially since the story seems to be panning over 3 decades.
Yeah,
you know.
Dude, I would love to play as Jill. Not gonna lie to you. Like,
no, that would be like
if it was like you know, like, hey, here's what happened to Clive. Now let's kind of go back and see what happened because I mean I would like to know what happened to Jill after the Rosarian invasion. Like, how did she get to where she was as a slave for the Iron Kingdom, like, being Shiva and stuff. It's just kind of like, I want to know her journey as well. So if I get to play as her, that'd be pretty awesome.
I do remember there, like, because that was definitely one of the concerns when it first got announced that it was going to be like heavily action focused, was that like, no, it's just Clive. And so I do remember, and I don't remember the full context, but I do remember there was a quote or some kind of answer given that like, no, like you like there's one other character that you play near the beginning of the game,
yes,
and then you play as Clive. But I feel like that's disproven because they said that like
the teen stuff happens, like, didn't they? I think they said that during State of Play that I don't think the story, I mean, I don't know, but will we start off with whatever, like all that young stuff happens, or is that going to be, because they mentioned flashback,
yeah,
right? So if it's a different character at the beginning of the game that we're playing as, and now Joshua's potentially playing, I don't know, it's weird.
Didn't they say that the other character we were going to be playing as was named Wyvern?
Wyvern,
Did they call Clive Wyvern?
Yeah,
yes.
And we know
so
that. Gotcha. It's actually the same person.
We did it.
We gotcha. Nailed it.
But then we see you playing Joshua, so it's like, okay, well, wait a minute, like what? Something's math isn't mathing.
So maybe Wyvern's like maybe when said to Clive, it's almost like in a condescending way. Maybe he can't live up to whoever Wyvern was. I don't know. Like they're calling him Wyvern, and maybe Wyvern was whoever was in his position before. It's the type of thing where like
there's also the point. I don't know if you paid attention to any of the details from the State of Play from the lore master and stuff. That all the stuff that we're talking about could be already answered. So I don't know because I didn't read it, but yeah. So the fact that Joshua did show up, it does make me kind of go back to what I was saying earlier about that, like that little drop down bar. Maybe specifying that it is Clive does make sense because when you bring up the menu as Joshua, it'll say Joshua. So yeah, that's interesting, and we don't know anything. At least I don't. If you guys do know from the lore master or whatever, and anybody in chat, just don't say anything. But we saw a glimpse of Phoenix versus Bahamut somehow. I don't know what that means. Does Clive transform into Phoenix as well, or is that Joshua back?
That was kind of
was like, whoa, wait a second. I don't know about that one.
Groot was the one that transformed. It was him. So.
Groot.
Yeah, what is his name?
Goats. I think it's Goats.
Goats?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's Gots. I don't know.
I don't know. The names I will say, like, the names are a little weird in this one. I don't know whose idea was it to name a girl Mid, but that was a little like.
Mid is the reference. Mid is Sid's grandson in one of the games. So it is. I feel like Mid is
name.
Right.
Okay.
I think Mid is going to be related to Sid in some context.
When I saw that and I saw they named that character, I'm like, this poor girl. I'm like, the internet's gonna run with calling her Mid.
It's great. They know it. Mid. They know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. So when it comes to combat, I want to move on from the characters real quick. We're gonna go over to combat because this is another sticking point that a lot of fans have had. Obviously, not being turn-based, not being command-based is another way to say it, because a lot of people will come out there and just say, hey, it hasn't been turn-based since Final Fantasy X, and they're correct. But when it comes to like command-based, Final Fantasy 15 had commands, like light commands, but it was still very much action-focused. And when I hear this game being promoted as the first Final Fantasy to be action-focused, I'm like, I don't know, Final Fantasy 15. Final Fantasy 15 really did. It had dodge rolls, it had blocks, it had parry mechanics. All of your weapon changes were on the D-pad. You could only play as Noctis in the first part of the.
I'm wondering if they were saying that because maybe there's no wait mode or anything like that. I'm curious because what is it called? I don't use it, but
15
the wait
did have a wait mode. Yeah, 15.
Yeah, like I don't know if they just eliminated that and then not being able to, besides having Torgal be command driven.
Yeah, I mean they have the timely rings of it, that kind of make it a wait mode almost in a way. It's like, okay,
that's true.
Plenty of time to dodge, but Yeah, I
Only in
personally.
terms of defense, though. Like, not the timely rings. Definitely, they have the one where you can like it'll do combos for you with one button, but there's not like a sense of like the timely rings don't seem to work very much in terms of like offensive. It's very much a defensive like so it's more reactionary as opposed to like strategy.
There is the one with the Ring of Timely Strikes that basically all you have to do is press square and
Right.
he does all the combos for you. Like he'll
Right.
chain together awesome combos for you. So it's
But
kind of
is
like
that I don't know, is that commandy vibes? Like
I mean,
I don't
yeah,
know.
I get so the point that I wanted to make with Final Fantasy 15, like bringing that into it, into the conversation right now, is that I do think that Final Fantasy 15 was a very like it was a step into the action genre. Like I
Mm-hmm.
do not like consider that command based. Be other than like bringing up pressing the R trigger to bring up your items to like, but even then it didn't stop the battle. Like I don't think it stopped. It didn't pause the game, right? Well, I don't know. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think it paused the game, but you had to bring up your items and like quickly get a potion and throw your potion at you. But other than that, everything was mapped to the buttons. Like attacking, dodging was on square, dodge rolling, to parry the attack, to move around the field, to use your warp strikes to get behind the enemies and stuff like that. It was very much an action game. Now, I imagine that if I'm a newcomer to the series, now I would love to have asked Liam this, but you played Final Fantasy VII Remake first, but now you're playing Final Fantasy
Well,
15, right?
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, because technically I went the original 7.
Oh,
and then
that's
I
right, that's
did-
right.
The original 7 was the first one I did about a year and a half, 2 years. No, yeah, about a year and a half ago. And then after that, it was what Crisis Core, no, Dirge, Crisis Core, all that. And
All
then,
7.
yeah, no, Advent, read the books, and then it was Remake. That was the last part of the journey. But yeah, then now 15.
Now you're
So-
playing 15, so I wonder if you would kind of agree with this in a way, to where it's like I'm imagining I'm a newcomer to the series. I'm like, oh man, this Final Fantasy looks like it's coming into the action genre. I want to jump into that. They get the game. Maybe they fall in love with it, maybe not, but besides the point. So like, let's just say they fell in love with it, but they're like, man, the combat could have been a little bit better. Like this doesn't feel like it's fully baked as an action game. Like it feels like they've made an attempt at an action game. It's maybe a little bit sloppy, and I say this out of love because I love Final Fantasy 15. But it could.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, so far, when I first played 15, like, Kuda, if you don't know, actually, I just started 15 like a little while, I don't know, like a couple weeks ago.
Oh,
anyway.
wow, okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you know, I'm pretty new. So viewers, yeah, I'm relatively new to the whole Final Fantasy fandom. That's actually part of why I'm here, because I'm trying to be like the voice of the newcomer. And to that, I will say, yeah, 15 so far, at least, compared to like the ATB turn-based style of 7, and then how Remake did combat. 15, at least at first, was my least favorite. What did make it better was actually unlocking the other characters, and it's crazy to think that was not a thing when I first played. So, I feel like I have to play 16 to really like know for sure how that's gonna feel, because if it's just gonna be me pressing circle,
no,
holding
yeah,
triangle,
no, it doesn't look like that to me at all.
no, it doesn't,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm
Unless
excited for
you're
that.
not
You
ready.
still look nuts, like you still
Yeah.
look like you're flying around and like whipping people up into the air. So
Yeah.
but I feel like with 15, at least at first, until I really like started to have fun messing around with like commands and switching around. It really just was almost like mind-numbingly like circle.
Circle. You
warp.
could just hold circle too,
Warp.
by the way. I don't know
Yeah.
if that changed your life or not, but you could just hold circle and yield to. the
You could
attack.
just. Oh no, I think I knew that. I think I just press it because it makes it feel like I'm doing more.
Then, like, so what I've seen from 15 to 16, even though 15 can be pretty challenging at times, and you have to be
Oh, no doubt, it could still be
find those
challenging.
warp
But
strikes and get out of there. And
no, yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
saying that there's no strategy, but the combat, like at least in the way that like Remake, I feel like kind of redid that like action style combat. At least Remake made it so that every character had, strangely enough, like I mean, Noctis is cool, but like. Weirdly enough, having the diversity amongst all of those play styles really made it, and I don't even use Ignis or Gladio that much. Prompto, I said this to you, I'm like, Prompto just to me is
Prompto's
broken. I'm like, why is he so broken? But you could clearly tell that this game was balanced around Noctis, and then at some point they're like,
it
just throw the others
was.
in.
It launched with only being able to play as Noctis.
Right, and then at some point they're like, yeah, just throw those other guys in, and then Prompto came out broken. But
like that's like basically the where I was trying to go with it. Whereas if you played it at launch, especially if you played it at launch, whereas Noctis is the only character you get to play as, you can mess around with managing your party, which is something that we haven't seen in 16. That is something to say. But whereas you are Noctis, this is that's your character. You do have comrades. You have you got your party with you. But this is your action game. We're focusing on action. That we're focusing on Noctis, and the end result was, in my opinion, was great. I did really enjoy it, but it's like, oh man, this is not fully there yet. This is not fully an action. Like if this is the direction they want to take the series, that's not quite there yet. It doesn't blend very well as either. So like, and this is where Final Fantasy 16, the point that I'm trying to make. They said this is an evolutionary step. I do not think Final Fantasy 16 is this drastic step away from the franchise in terms of the gameplay. Like, and that's where I was like, if you trace it back to 15, it's like this is the direction that they wanted to go. No,
it seems very it does seem like there's some things that have like changed and almost arguably maybe even regressed again. If you're gonna be one of those people that's really upset about not having additional party members, because I know. Yeah. Obviously, I started 15 way late into its life, so like, I wasn't there for when it was just strictly Noctis. But from what I've gathered, the general consensus is that most people seem to be really happy that they did add the other three as playable characters.
Yeah. I mean, I got so used to playing as Noctis. It was always like I always did Noctis anyway, but like
that's the difference. I mean, you had strictly Noctis at first. I didn't. So once I started to mess around, it did make it. And I feel like that, maybe that's like an understated thing is like, and who knows, maybe if there is a backlash to that, or if people feel like they're missing out on that, maybe they will patch that. Who knows,
dude? I mean, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not hoping for it by any means. Like, what I want is just refined gameplay that's going to feel good.
There it is, right? So like when you get Final Fantasy 15, like I was saying, maybe not fully baked, they decided for 16, let's go out and grab the best of the best. Like, let's not just try and do it again. Let's not try again. Let's do this. Let's go out there and be serious about it being an action-focused game. Let's go grab Capcom's Ryota Suzuki. Let's go bring him in because that dude knows how to do action games. He knows, like, we've seen Devil May Cry 5. He knows how to make it nice. Let's bring him in here. Let's introduce him to the Final Fantasy family. Let's show him what Final Fantasy is about. Let's make sure he can blend that Devil May Cry feel with Final Fantasy and make sure it is, in my opinion, still retaining a Final Fantasy feel, especially with the icons being the summons, the magic. There is, you got the ranged attacks with throwing like each one seemed to have had some sort of ranged attack. Like Shiva has a blizzard spell that you can cast with triangle, Stone for Titan. But basically what I'm trying to say is that this now feels like an evolutionary step for Final Fantasy rather than them being this, what people are saying, like a drastic change. Like this feels like, hey, we tried with 15, now we're doing it with 16. And then you can even make that comparison to the Titan fight in Final Fantasy 15 and compare that to what you've seen in Final Fantasy 16. Which 15 was a very epic set piece fighting Titan. Did it hold up well?
Was it?
Did it hold up well?
No, I think so. I had a lot. Yeah. The spectacle of that fight was really fun.
Yeah.
And actually, I will say, and 16 looks like it's really honing in on this in a really good way, and it's probably because it's next gen game. But one thing about that Titan fight was in particular that I liked was how it integrated characters coming in and out.
Yeah.
It made it feel like there was, like when you think about it and you're playing the game, it's like, of course you're focused solely on what's happening to Noctis. But when you're seeing characters coming in and out, Gladio's throwing you and then you're separated for a bit and then you got him back and then now Prompto and Ignis finally made it to you. It's like, okay, it's making it feel like there's a grander set piece.
I don't think I don't think any game is going to capture the theme of brotherhood like that game. Like,
No,
I love brotherhood.
I haven't finished it yet, but like it's very true. Well, besides maybe Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons. Which,
okay,
that was a great game.
Yeah.
That game is literally about brother.
Yeah,
It's in the name. But no, like you're right. Like the camaraderie like between those. You know, like you feel it. It's like almost like palpable. You can
the thing that 15 did with that Titan fight is that like it's like they were trying to go for this epic God of War scale, right? Like we've seen it in God of War 3. At this point, God of War 2018 wasn't out, but it's like we've seen the scale. We want to do that scale. We want to make it epic like that. And you can see that it was just kind of. It was trying, but it wasn't quite there yet. We still had the fade to black screen, like the screen had to fade to black sometimes, and then cut back with a cutscene, like it felt like okay, this is a chopped together sequence of events where it wasn't quite seamless yet. It didn't feel like it was enough to take you out of the moment for a second, for just a split second, and then like Gladio helps you up. You know, you're good, and then like. But then it's just like, okay, so he just kind of sweeps the ground, you know, like he's doing a sweep of the ground. He'll punch you once, punch you again. And it's like, okay, the scale is there. The epicness is there. But what we didn't know is when it comes to Final Fantasy 16, the next entry, when we fight Titan in Final Fantasy 16, we get it. We get what they've been wanting to do, man. This is freaking not only one of the best Final Fantasy moments. Like, and all we've seen it in the trailer. We've only seen it in the trailer. This is freaking video games, baby. Like, this is the video game moment. That if you see that fight, I don't care if you're not a Final Fantasy fan. You see that fight, you're like...
No, it's got a spectacle.
God. Right,
like, there is a spectacle to it.
And it's not a cutscene. Like, we've seen, there's a little bit of cutscene, but you see Ifrit... You're running up there with Ifrit and you're dodging the crystals. He throws a crystal, you punch that crystal, you're flying across it. Like, I'm just like, oh my god, there is so much happening right now. This is freaking amazing, right?
No, that is,
and it's all seamless. Actually, it's all seamless.
I will say the icon battles. I feel like going back, the subtle moments you're talking about, but like that I think will be the heart of the game. But these are really going to be like. What I think is going to grip people is those icon battles.
That's what's going to bring them in.
And it's funny because, like, when I think about, like, at least to me, like, one thing I really appreciate in Final Fantasy is, character chemistry in battle. And it's funny because, like, when I was watching, like, this one part of the trailer where that, like, I don't remember his name, but anyway, the like Dark Knight looking person, like jumps on you and is about to like stab you or whatever.
Odin, like,
now, I don't know if this is just
Odin.
like, I don't know if this is an early gameplay thing, but they're showing you mash and square, you get out, and Sid was just standing there, and I'm like,
no, I know what you're talking about. My bad. You're talking about like it looked like Lord of the Rings guy, like he's coming.
It was like, yep. No, and I was like, Sid, I'm like,
he jumps in after that.
I'm like. Yeah, he jumps in. So but like it looked like, at least to me, maybe I just didn't
it was
catch
a little
it.
bit, yeah.
The camera pans up and he's just standing next to you after you get up off the ground. I'm like,
you want to help me, man?
I'm like, yo, bro, like I'm like, I was dead.
A knife in my head, man.
The one thing I'm gonna say is that like maybe that was just like one like little like hiccup or something, but I feel like what's really gonna like be the telling piece is how like and I think 15 really honed in on this well is the chemistry between characters in battle, and that's always to me like with remake you could feel it. The original 7 when I played, I remember like even though they're technically not interacting, you feel like they are connected when you just have them.
Absolutely,
I'm hoping for that, but regardless of that, I just think like. These icon battles are definitely going to be the show steal. And I'm very curious. I hope they didn't show too much because I want to see what else they have to show. And I'm worried about that because, like...
That's another concern,
like, they more or less showed the entire Titan fight. I almost felt like, I don't know.
They showed the ending of it.
I'm like, what the hell, man? I mean, you do like 40 million damage?
It was freaking amazing. And I was
it was awesome.
Yeah, I was like, but that's how it ends. But
listen, they're saving it for the Chocobo and Moogle summon icon fight. Okay,
there must be the Chocobo versus Moogle. All right, that's the epitome.
Chocobo Moogle
something better, and it's that.
That's it. No, but I would not be surprised if it's like a joke mission or something. But anyway, no, like, no, but like, I don't know. It's. I hope they didn't show too much of that because that's my only major concern is that if they really just showed us like. like I hope that we just saw a little taste of maybe a good deal of them. And yeah,
It's
sure,
gotta
you
be.
probably spoiled the whole
Yeah.
I mean,
Titan fight, but like,
to be fair, like if it's as playable and controllable as they're saying it is, then that may not be the ending that you get. So
that's fair. I didn't
so
even think
like,
about that.
right, like it very well could play out very differently
We might
based
be
on
at
the choices that you're
Yeah,
doing.
no, we
to
might be
take
at
it
the
down.
point now where like you mess up a QTE and instead of it just failing, you might get thrown into another branch of I don't know. That'd be great. I
So,
don't know. But
Kudo, what was your thoughts on that scene? Like that moment in general, the icons versus icons. The I guess the what am I trying to say? Like from normal battles to a battle versus icon to icon versus icon to that like escalation of. Does that excite you, man? Are you excited?
A little. Honestly, I feel like they're spending so much time on the icon versus icon, which is, I mean, it is. It's the spectacle.
It is.
And it is beautiful, and it looks. If, like I said, if you can play it as much as they're saying that you can play it, it's peak video game.
Yeah.
You know, like that's amazing. But I am also a little concerned because watching those moments, like they're super spongy. You're doing like absolutely no damage in like any of those things. And so how long are these fights going to take when it looks like you're doing something super epic? If you're doing that super epic thing for way too long, it's going to lose some of its like splendor a little bit.
we're almost at the point now where like if you're leveling this up, like how scripted is it? Like,
Right.
like is your level going to impact how this fight could turn out, or is it just going to be a
Exactly.
super scripted thing?
One thing I will
Right.
say is that even though it looked like the bars weren't going, like when he's doing the attacks, the bars are kind of chipping away. But then there's these big attacks that happen, like where it does like go and like literally just like erase the time or erase the health bar.
I remember the Phoenix one, but that
yeah.
makes sense because you're rebirth kind of vibe. So
Yeah. I think you are going to be on a roller coaster ride as playing it. Like, I mean, when Feet is running up the arm, you're not going to be able to fall off of it. I don't think that's going to be the case. You're not in control of his direction,
expect
but
that,
you're
yeah.
in control of dodging that stuff, and you're in control of like punching the crystals and things like that. That's what I'm assuming. So you are like on this roller coaster ride like during that thing. It's you are on the roller coaster, you're taking it where the tracks lead you, but you do have it's like a roller coaster you get on where you can like shoot lasers and stuff. Like you're interacting with it, but it's also taking you for the ride. And I mean that's just kind of like that's how God of War does it. Like that's how that these big epic scale fights are going to do it. But then they give you these moments where you're playing as Ifrit and you got a full set of abilities as Ifrit, fighting fighting things, dodging things. When you fight Typhon, you can see that huge arena and you're freely moving around that arena as Ifrit. So I think there's going to be, and I think Typhon is that's just the first stage. Like I think Typhon is going to go even crazier there. And yeah, I mean I think what you're going to do once that second stage of the fight happens seamlessly, by the way, and we kind of chuckled at it when he was like, the power of the PlayStation 5 can make it seamless. And it's like, I mean, it's nothing new that we haven't seen in action games, but
Yeah, I mean it's very God of War-ish, but
exactly, but you're never taken out of that
no,
explosion.
and that's important.
Like with Final
It's
Fantasy
very
15, that fade to black was only for like maybe a second, and now it's just like
Yeah, on PS5 it's like
oh,
half a
man.
second.
Yeah, you're just kind of like, man, it took me out for a second. But this is just
imagine
gonna be
it's
amazing.
going to be similar to Remake, where there's those cutscene transitions between phases of the fight. So
Yeah, I mean, it's like
Which
even
I love
Remake has
those.
done it, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I don't know if I can like. I know they have to sell the PS5 type thing, but like the fact that they are rendering in this level of scale, this level of detail, and everything like that, I will say, yeah, I give it credit to the PS5 for that. And it is very, very impressive of what is happening on screen, and the fact that we are looking at a Final Fantasy game, like. It just blows my mind. So for me, coming from this side of the gaming spectrum, like I love action games. Like that's one of my favorite things. Final Fantasy, and this is going to sound so hypocritical. I don't know. People are going to be like, "Whoa, what? I never knew that about you, Jay." And we're like, "Yeah, let me tell you, JRPGs, or sorry, That type of game has never really, like, I don't really like Persona. Like, I tried Persona, didn't like it. Like, it's Final Fantasy. Something about Final Fantasy that just...
I kind of agree. I was never really like an RPG.
Yeah. Well, I can't say
person.
RPG.
Well,
I don't want to say the other word either, you know what I'm saying? Because that's a word you don't want to say. But like Persona, Yakuza, or the Like a Dragon one, or like anything like
the
that.
party management type, almost like besides Final Fantasy for me now.
Xenoblade, or what's it called? Xenoblade? No, what's it called?
Yeah,
Chronicles.
Yeah,
or
Xenoblade.
Xenoblade Chronicles.
Xenoblade Chronicles.
Not my kind of game. And it's just kind of like, whoa, really?
Final Fantasy hit me with that haymaker,
Yeah,
but like
man.
other than that, like I've never really been one for like those type of games.
Yeah.
Like,
So, dude,
either.
this game is screaming at me. Like, this is like, dude, I love this so much because now they're doing what I want. But here's and this is why I wanted to bring you on the show and to give it like a voice and stuff. Like, Kuda, like, I mean, you're not wrong for feeling that way. Like, it's not like whenever I get a comment on YouTube where somebody's like, oh man, you know, this game, it's just Final Fantasy's not what it was. And it's like, I'm like, yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I mean, there is that DNA still intact, and I will defend that. Like, I really do believe the DNA of Final Fantasy is coursing. I mean, almost stronger than I've ever seen it. But when it comes to the gameplay combat, yeah, I can't really do much, but other than say, icons are kind of your jobs. So if you want to if you want to kind of think back to the Final Fantasies of old when you had a job class system, it's like, dude, or even Final Fantasy 14, this is kind of your job classes. And then you know, managing your each icon is kind of your party. Maybe we get to mess with Torgal, maybe we get to mess with Jill, or any Sid or anybody else who's in the party. I don't want to make promise. Like, I don't even want to hype that up because I honestly don't think that's going to be the case.
It's hard to say for now, at least.
Yeah,
but
it's just like, get excited about, or try to get excited about the fact that, okay, maybe we're not managing party, but man, to manage the icons and the jobs of that, the abilities of that, I think that's where the meat is, you know? So that's where I'm at with it when it comes to, is 16 still Final Fantasy? And it's like, absolutely. But when it comes to this action focus, I empathize. I totally do. Like, it's not like I'm like, oh man, you know, Final Fantasy needed to do this. Final Fantasy, like, if you want turn-based, go play Octopath Traveler. You know, like, I'm not going to do that to you, even though go play Octopath Traveler. Hey, look, there's an RPG type thing that I really like, and Fantasian. Go do that. All right, go. So it's not all of them. I just, you know, it's just Persona I couldn't get in it. But anyways, like, when it comes to that stuff, yeah, man, Fantasian, it's all turn-based, and it is phenomenal. It proves that turn-based can work in today's age. But are we hearing about Fantasian at the State of Play? No. Are we talking about Octopath Traveler as a State of Play headliner? No, we're not. But if you get this level of action, this level of quality, you're going to see that as a State of Play headliner. And then it's going to be like drawing in so much attention. Let's get Final Fantasy back to that pinnacle that it was. Like, let's get Final Fantasy back to, yes, Final Fantasy VII Remake was very popular and it did very well. But let's get it back to where it's like God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, like all these marquee titles for PlayStation. We want Final Fantasy 16 to be there. We want Final Fantasy 16. We want Final Fantasy in general to be back on top as like, this is the game. You know, this is what fans love. Like, people are loving these third-person action adventure games. They don't have turn-based in them, unfortunately. And it's just kind of like, let's get there. Let's do that. And I think Final Fantasy 16, from what we've seen so far, has achieved it. And that, to me, is so exciting because now it's like Final Fantasy, it's like back in the golden era. Like, Final Fantasy's coming out, that's an event. That is an event. Whereas Final Fantasy 15, they made it an event Like they sure did. They made that an event. And then, but it's like, man, it's just kind of like, this is a Final Fantasy game coming out. We got to go buy it. And I can see that from a lot of different comments I've read where like, hey, I don't play Final Fantasy, but this looks freaking amazing. And I don't, like I'm not a Final Fantasy fan, but I'm going to get this one, and it's just kind of like, that's what I want to see. I want to see that. I want to see the fandom grow, but not desert the fandom. So that's why I'm like, Kuda, I don't want you to feel like, oh, they're abandoning me, like they're leaving me behind. And if that's the way you feel, that's the way you feel. And it's not wrong. You know what I mean?
It's interesting because I do feel like that's part of the struggle of being a Final Fantasy fan, is that all of them are very inherently different.
Yeah.
So there's bound to be one of the 16 mainline titles that you're just not going to vibe with.
It's a 35-year-old franchise. If you like all of them, you're a liar. No, but no. But to that, no. I was gonna say,
I know.
If you genuinely love all of them equally, or you think
Not
that every
equally,
entry is on equal footing, then you're like, you can like all of them.
Yeah.
Listen. Oh, by the way, not to like hijack your channel here, but leave a comment what game I should play after 16, because I'm again new to all this, and I'm actually very curious what people think I should go to next. So, would you say 6?
I did say 6.
Yeah. Well, I just got the Pixel remaster, so I'm waiting for that to download. It depends on when I beat 15. If I have enough time, I might try and crunch one out, but I'm probably just gonna ride 15 out till, I still work. I still have to be an adult. So I'll probably ride 15 out to 16, and then I want to be there for 16 when it's, out, because this will be, as my time as a fan of the franchise, this will be the first new mainline release. So definitely excited for that on that merit alone. But yeah, I want to know what, like longtime fans actually think I should do next, because this is something that I've been talking to people about, and I've heard a different answer from every person. So
I've given my ansers.
I know we had a good discussion. I just heard Kuda.
Yeah.
So not to hijack your channel, but
you're good. Yeah, leave a comment.
There's your engagement. Tell people to leave a comment.
Call to action.
So. All right, so then I think the last I do want to cover 2 more subjects, and then we can. This has been a great discussion. This has been fantastic.
Yeah, I'm having a great time.
We're getting up to the 2-hour mark, so I wanna like let's cover.
Let's wrap it up.
Yeah, let's get these 2 subjects ready. So we're gonna talk about mature story, and then we're gonna talk about the Metacritic score Game of the Year type discussion, which shouldn't be too long. That's just kind of a prediction type thing. But when it comes to the mature story, Kuda, go ahead and explain your position on that real quick.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned before a little bit, like I definitely am more of a fan of the whimsy and of the power of friendship type vibes. So the darker, story of revenge is just not appealing to me. Like it's not drawing me in.
Okay,
so,
that's right. We did kind of touch on that. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very glad, because I know that they've tried to address some of this stuff, and I feel like the PAX panel was really a big one. I wasn't wild on how they addressed it. I feel like a lot of it was kind of poking fun at the people who were criticizing making these criticisms.
Yeah, you in the front row. This game's
like where they're like, oh, like they show the comments like, oh, it's so dark, and then they're like, oh, it's not. Like you think it's dark? Here's all these bright tunes. Like I get it. I get what you're trying to say. But when all of your marketing beforehand is talking about the story of revenge and this mature Final Fantasy, and then all of the visuals are very dark, you can't blame people for assuming that it's going to be a very dark game. Like that is not our fault, No,
I don't. Yeah, they made a decision to focus on the action. They made a decision to focus on like, hey, this is going to be a mature story.
Right.
And now that we're at this point, we've seen the state of play, we've seen the PAX East presentation, and we've seen like these beautiful vistas. We've seen like very bright and vibrant, literally bright and vibrant crystals. Like we've gone into this inside of a crystal, which is like, this is peak Final Fantasy to me. But so like you go in there and
always a crystal, like Conan said.
Yeah.
It's always, if you've ever seen him rate Final Fantasy 15, it's always a crystal.
It's always a crystal.
Continue. Sorry, I just had to get that out there.
No, I feel like all of those segments have been such a small percentage of what we have actually seen. So I'm a little hesitant to believe that that's not that it
The
is
gist of it,
balanced.
yeah.
You know,
I really don't think we're going to get balance. So, like, in my opinion, I do think that we are going to get quite a darker tone here than we're used to. So
the quote about it ending with a hopeful story, or like, giving hope at the end, like I feel like that's
yes.
I want to see more of that, like I mentioned, but I feel like, it's okay if it's more dark, but I do want those funny and silly moments. I want the something akin to Gold Saucer, where it's just lighthearted, happy energy, because dark and dreary all the time is not fun.
To me, I feel like, and Liam, this is going to be interesting when you go back and you play all the older ones. But I believe, man, Final Fantasy II, and I know that's not really a popular one, but I really do think this is, it got that vibe. It's the vibe of like Final Fantasy 2, but I mean even Final Fantasy 1 through 4, where like 4 was, dude, imagine that in today's graphics, when he slaughters a village at the beginning of the game, and he was responsible for that slaughter, and then like the mother of that little child, like I mean, that is dark, and he was literally a Dark Knight,
Yeah.
And then you get that moment of redemption and all that other stuff, but like it had comedy, and it obviously did have comedy elements in it, but overall that game is dark. And then Final Fantasy,
and I think that a majority of the Final Fantasy games are very much that way. And like I said, like that's fine, but they always have those comedic reliefs, or that lighthearted like chuckle moment, where you can like sit and kind of laugh at the people. And right now, I know that they've said that happens, but we haven't really seen it.
Yeah.
And so I want more, like I want to make sure that part of the series is still present.
Yes, I understand. Yeah.
We've seen Torgal, and that is good. And petting Torgal is lighthearted and cheery, and you can do that at any time. And that's why Torgal is my favorite right now. Yeah. But I don't know. I really want something that I can escape the real world and like the darkness of reality by going into a fantasy world that is fun and chipper, at least even a moment.
To just add to that, though, I mean, actually, interestingly, I was just talking to somebody about why they should play, Final Fantasy VII, and I was showing him old adverts for the game, and when you look back at like a lot of those older adverts, I mean, 15 is kind of a goofy game in general, like just not like I don't know the whole thing though, but at least the early parts of the game and from the trailers, I'm like. Yeah, like these dudes look like a boy band, and you're driving around in a car, and it's just inherently goofy. But like looking at like looking at the adverts for 7, like the original set, at least from what I remember, I mean, maybe if I watched all of them again, I might be proven wrong. This is a discussion I had a while ago, but I was getting to the point of like it really honed in on really the dark elements of the game. Absolutely. And if you think about it, at that time we didn't have like state of plays or everything. So I think if anything, we're looking at this almost from a lens of like we're here now and we're absorbing this content now. But when you look back, almost, I mean, again, I didn't look at the trailers for all the games, but I would honestly think that if anything, the trailer's trying to grip you with the dark element, like the gravity of the situation, and then that allows entry for the goofy moments. That's when the Gold Saucer catches you off guard. Yeah, that's when the cat on the Moogle shows up and is like, "Hey, I'm a too." Like like that's because I mean, at least from what I remember, I don't remember seeing an advert where Kate Sith was. We did
a retrospective on that, and we went back and watched all the commercials. And read the magazine articles and stuff like that. The commercials were very much selling it as a cinematic experience, like very much a Hollywood blockbuster is what they were trying to go.
but the tone, like while that was like the focus of like you're gonna be doing this epic blah blah blah, but then there was always a punchline at the end of the commercial. So it was always a little bit of a like, the biggest experience is coming to your screen, in your living room.
Your living
room.
Or was it and if he
okay,
fails, you can hit the reset.
Right. And so, so while it's playing up the big and like bombastic, like epic story, like it's also poking fun at it a little bit, and I'm not getting any playful energy from 16 yet, other than Torgal.
Yeah, I got the playful energy from the developers themselves, but like, yeah, I get what you're saying. Like when we were watching the PAX East thing, I was like, yeah, these guys are having fun. They're they're out there. They really believe in this thing, and like the fact that he goes, the power of the PlayStation 5. Like he's kind of like he's throwing that humor in there, and it gives me hope, or it gives me like reassurance, I should say, like that. Yeah, they are. I mean, Final Fantasy 14 isn't. They're responsible for that, and it's like they know Final Fantasy. They know this, and I really do feel like we said it earlier in the show with like Mid. Sid, like all these characters, like with the smiles on their face, the interactions with the characters. I do think we are going to get that, but here's where like I'm almost, and I won't be able to help you with this one, but like to say what I'm saying is like, man, I played Type 0 recently. Like I started Type 0 and I was like, yeah, let me get that rated M Final Fantasy real quick. And I started it and I absolutely loved the opening. And that is we have this soldier bloodied laying on the ground propped up by a dying chocobo. And I'm like, I've never seen this before and I love it. And I'm sitting over here like he's in the rain, blood is just soaking the whole entire street. I'm like, oh my God, I love this. And then I'm hooked. I am so hooked into this. And then the other characters come in and I went, oh no, it clashes way too much. Like they come in and they're that, like that upbeat Final Fantasy thing. And I'm like,
friendship.
Power of friendship. And I said, oh no, this doesn't fit at all. Like, and I was like, kind of, for me personally, kind of just like, ooh, taken out of the experience. And I was like, Type 0 was onto something for me. And then they didn't go through with it. And then I played Stranger of Paradise. I love that game. It's Kuda loves it too. Stranger of Paradise is a great game, but when it comes to like when it comes to like canon, if it's canon, I don't like it. It almost feels disrespectful. Like as we're talking about, it almost feels disrespectful to Final Fantasy 1. But aside from that, it's so campy. It's so great. It's funny, but they never like fully committed. It felt like a parody almost at times. And then Final Fantasy 16 comes along and they're committed to the vision. And I'm like, okay, this is what I want. You are sprinkling in, like Game of Thrones is extremely dark series, but there are sprinkled in, I drink and I know things. Like it's just kind of like the little sprinkle in the comedy in there. I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't get a character kind of like Tyrion, like a character that's more like, I think Yoshida even mentioned it in one of them, or it was Koji Fox saying that their favorite character is a character they haven't introduced yet.
Yeah,
but this character,
I think I watched your video.
I think it's
actually,
the Bard.
about that.
The Bard, maybe they just introduced him.
I think right.
Okay.
Well,
he's a little more outgoing and funny, and it's just kind of like they said that in the interview. I think it was on the PlayStation blog, where he was like, this character we haven't introduced yet, but he's a little more, I don't know what he said, carefree, or basically saying like, hey, here's the character that is going to make
that everyone's
laugh. Yeah. There's a character that sings songs about your adventure, like he's going to sing, and it's just like they actually brought in a recording artist to like a recording. They brought in a voice actor that can sing to do the singing for Clive's adventures and stuff like that. It's probably the Bard, like you're talking about. That makes a whole lot of sense. But yeah, I mean, like that in general makes me like, okay, they know what they're doing in that sense of things. But yeah, this is going to be they're committed to the vision, right? And that's what makes me really excited. I'm like, okay. I mean, personally, on a personal note, I've been through a lot. Right, I've been through a lot in my life, and there's a lot of stuff, and I'm just like, I know what they quote harshness of reality, and like for me, I'm just like, in order for me to connect with the game, I want them to go there. Like, I want them to go there. Don't cop out, go there. And like, don't try and like, yeah, obviously life is full of also joy and hope and faith and stuff like that. The game's title, which I found in an interview at one point, the game's working title was Faith or something like that. Like, it was something to do with faith. And I'm like, that right there tells you that it's like, hey, you're going to go through the harshest of adversity in this game. Like, it's going to be real hard on you. But there's always hope. There's always that something to hold on to, something to have your faith into. And I think that's what Clive is going to discover, even though he's going to be hell-bent on revenge. He's going to be out there. But something's going to click.
I was to say, I'm hoping he's having that. I don't know if anybody here's a Lord of the Rings fan. I'm an absolutely huge Lord of the Rings fan.
Yes.
But Sam's speech in Two Towers is literally what you are talking about.
Yeah,
that hope, that it's the stories that matter, Mr. Frodo, the ones that stick with you, even if you're too young to understand why. I'm about to cry thinking about that speech.
I know, man.
But anyway, and actually, that's what has me interested in this, is that, not for nothing, I mean, I don't have the attachment to the whole franchise like you guys do. So, I don't know just how whimsical things might get. Like, I haven't played 9, but I know 9 can get a little, like, whimsical. But I also don't know how dark it can get, even in the most whimsical titles. Like, I know that, like, some characters might have really dark plot, whatever. But what matters to me is the story knows how to handle itself, because that's a huge thing. And if they're willing to put the chips in the table but still know how to, like, handle it, then I'm all for it. I want to just see a story, because and I'm enjoying, like, the hell out of 15 right now. But I was saying this to you, Daniel, for everything. I love the character dynamics. There's so much I love. The one thing is that the story, and I think it was just because of how side content heavy the early parts are. It's like, you got serious crap going on. I'm gonna go cast a line real quick.
Let's go fish. Let's go hang out let's do a road trip.
Well, you know what? Maybe that speaks to something. Maybe if you're going through some, terrible stuff, maybe you just need to take a moment, grab your bros, and go cast a line into a pond. But what I was saying to that is that it almost took away from, like, the urgency. I felt like my only complaint so far with 15 was that the early part, I do like the open elements, don't get me wrong, I actually really like them, but I felt like it could have done better maybe with some more linearity at the start.
How much of the side quests are you doing? Are you doing a lot of
If I find something, I do it.
There you go.
And that's a problem.
And that's it's to the point where it's something I'm really excited about 16, where it's like each side quest seems like it's going to make sense that it's there and make and like obviously they say here's your stages, so that way you're not interrupting the story and it's still going to feel like a roller coaster.
A natural progression in what's going on.
Yeah, whereas Final Fantasy 15, if you stick to the main quest lines, you might have a better, like, pacing there. I did what you did. Every single thing. I did every single thing, and it was what I call the funnel effect, where it's like it gives you everything you want. You drive around, and then all of a sudden, you've hit a point. You've hit the Titan fight. It's about to go down, man. Let me tell you, you're about to go into the funnel. So that's what I'm trying to say. Like, you're about to go in. And once you get
if
there,
you want to know where
it's on.
If you want to know where I am, and I'm pretty sure I'm at that funnel, because once you said that to me, I'm like, I should probably get all the side stuff I want out of the way.
You have an opportunity to go back in the second to last chapter, so don't worry about that. Like, you will have an opportunity.
Well, no, I know, but I'm at the point where Iris is like, oh yeah, let's go. After you get back from.
You're about to go to Altisha. It's about to happen. You're about to. It's about to.
So no, I know, because when she said when it said, oh yeah, you'll be gone for a while, I'm like.
That's the game telling you. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like, I just wanted to say that I feel like they're committing to this, right? So Final Fantasy 15,
I feel that way too.
I totally get what you're saying about, like, the pacing and everything of it, and you don't feel like it's an urgency. You're gonna get there. You're gonna get on that urgency.
Oh, I'm sure.
And it goes like you said, man. You got the whimsy out of the way, bro. You got your whimsy out.
I'm catching every goddamn fish I can.
You get your fishing out of the way because it's about to go down the funnel, baby.
My girlfriend makes fun of me. I'm sitting there fishing for like 2 hours, and in the back of her mind, she's probably like, "Isn't there like a story?" And I'm like, "Nah, it's a fishing sim."
No, it's
can't wait.
Yeah, what?
Dude, no, I can't wait to play the VR fishing sim. That's the next game I'm doing after. I'm not even kidding. That's what's gonna hold
Monsters
me over
of the
16.
Deep, baby.
Yeah,
I did it too. So yeah, man. Like I just wanted to say that like the mature story for me is everything I want, but I can see where Kudo's coming from, and other viewers that I've seen comments from too, where they're just like and I'm just like totally get that. I totally understand. I think they're committing to this vision, and I've even kind of like broke the news in my opinion. I don't know who am I to say, but I don't think we're going to get like Chocobo racing, and even though that dash mechanic was very Chocobo racing in my opinion.
Yeah, drifting, come on.
It's got the drifting. Maybe it's there. If there was any mini game to transfer over, I think it could be Chocobo racing, but I don't know how that's going to fit
weird if it didn't
in.
have it.
It's what I'm saying. Like,
unless it's a type of thing where Clive's like, listen, I need a few bucks.
I just don't know where it would fit, and I think that's where I'm at with it. Where it's just like this could be this. This is the things that I'm not concerned about. I'm just kind of curious about how that's going to feel in my Final Fantasy, where I'm not going to have triple triad, or I'm not going to have a blitzball game or mini game. Final Fantasy VII is so popular, and like those mini games in it like are so popular because there's hundreds of them. So
and that's where I feel like they're really pushing that, like, hey, there aren't those like immersion breaking mini game segments, but it sounds like what they're really trying to push as the mini games are the icon fights and the arcade mode.
Yes.
And the icon fights definitely, like I said, spectacle. It looks really cool, and I'm curious how long they're going to take and how scripted they will be. But I also feel like the arcade mode is definitely not appealing to me. It very try hard, sweaty palms kind of vibe. Like I don't know. I don't play an RPG for that kind of mentality, and so I'm a little worried if that is the only mini game, really. Then, because are we going to be able to repeat icon fights? Maybe with a Redstone. Yeah. Like maybe we'll be able to redo that, which would be cool if you really like the mechanics of something and want to just play that as a mini game. That might be really neat.
It's the type of thing, if I was like 6 years old, I'd be like, "Yo, come here!" Like to my cousins when they come over.
You could imagine. 100%. Yeah, you could imagine if the mini game is like Kuda's saying, if you can go back and replay them like that. But whenever you were Phoenix and you had like that Star Fox, Panzer Dragoon type thing, that's something you would want to set high. That's the reason why you play Star Fox, and so you can get the best clear score and everything. If that's the case, then cool. But I am totally with you on that. If there's anything that we've talked about today that I'm a little iffy on, like everything else, I'm freaking sold, baby. I am so into this. But the only thing I'm a little curious about is mini games, and that's it's just kind of like, the arcade mode. It's setting high scores is definitely, like Kuda said, not really something that Final Fantasy fans are like, oh man,
In Remake,
they had the box smashing mini game, and that was my least favorite. I absolutely hated it.
No, God, that was hard on freaking getting the platinum.
Oh my god, and goofy mode was ridiculous.
I don't know, maybe I'm mistaken. I thought that there was like a leader. I don't have any friends. All my friends are Xbox people, so like I didn't have any leaderboard things to compare. But I thought that what was his name, Chadley or whatever. I thought that like his like what a weird dude. But anyway,
we love Chadley.
Cool. like he explains all that stuff, and Cloud just goes, cool. Like.
You remind you of someone I know. I was about to say who, but then I'm like,
hey, I was watching that Final Fantasy TV podcast.
Yeah, I said it. And you name dropped me? Compare me to that guy? No, but anyways, like I thought that there was some high score thing with him. I thought like if you did the training mode fights, I mean, maybe I'm mistaken.
The darts as well. I don't know if that was actually was that Friends leaderboards? Chat, help me out. Help us out.
Yeah, I might be. I could be totally mistaken. I played Remake like once when it came out, and then I just So I don't know.
The high
But
score
anyway,
leaderboard-
okay. I feel like at least on mine with the mini games. Yeah, I mean, this is where being new is like weird because like I don't. Like I'm sort of where you guys have this like. I mean, I have my own expectations. Don't get me wrong. I think with any game, even if it's like a game that you know little about, you should have expectations to some degree.
Sure, of course.
But as a new
it's
person,
fine to be hype. It's fine to be cautious.
Like as far as I see it though, like I don't know. I'm just sort of here for the ride. Like with this entry, just like I want to see what the first entry that they're giving me. Like that's how it almost feels.
This is your first
like I said,
launch.
This is my first main, in my time as a fan. I mean, I got Crisis Core, like I got that. But I already played the original. So like, I spent like $200 on a PSP and $40
Like, hey, here's your remaster.
And then they announced it like 4 months later. Like, you gotta be kidding me.
The better way to play that game for sure.
I was like, God. But anyway, so I'm just sort of interested, for the new people who might be listening at the very least. I mean, I'm almost just curious to see like what having little to no expectations as a pre-established fan might be. It might be a rewarding thing going into this entry, because I mean, while you might know that there's staples like Chocobo Moogles, maybe Chocobo Racing, maybe we get Chocobo Jousting, but like,
man, I see you, Filthy Locker in the chat saying Chocobo Jousting. We've been talking about Chocobo Jousting since.
Have you?
Oh my god, bro! Like since Night Sky Prince, we had him on when the game was first revealed, like back in 2021 or something like that, and we said, dude, it's medieval. Bring in some medieval games. Like, let the mini games be sword duels, archery, and chocobo jousting.
If you want to, I mean, obviously, you're not going to have a gold sauce or arcade in this type of thing.
Here's the thing,
you almost want to have like a Renaissance fair-esque type thing.
Here's the thing. And I don't want to say, because I'm putting it out there in existence. People might get excited about it. I don't think it's going to happen. But Clive won a ducal tournament to become the first shield. Tournaments do exist in this world. Give us some tournament minigames. But hey, they did say at the end of the state of play thing, they said side content, in-game content is coming next, and I'm like, bro, yes, but no, please, yes.
Yeah, I don't want to know too much.
Don't tell me any. Scared. Please, yes, no. Like I don't.
When they said endgame content, that scared me. I'm like, you're gonna tell me about endgame content before I even played it?
Stop.
The endgame content that they've already mentioned is just like a hard mode.
Yes.
So I wonder.
Okay. If you want to tell me that, great.
Yeah.
But like, if you're gonna tell me like anything that might dip into like,
they're like,
even if
it's
it's
after you beat the game, you get to go and
like
travel
weirdly
around,
enough, like if you told me that it's an open world after, like not that like I wouldn't expect that, but almost knowing that could take away any like potential tension. Like for example, you say, the world opens up. You could do whatever you want with Clive after. It's like, okay, well now I know Clive might not die.
Clive's gonna live. Yeah.
Right. Like unless he dies in the last chapter and we get to play as grunts.
Somebody did that to me with a very important video game, and he was like, "Oh, dude, after you're done the story, man, you get to go through and do this stuff." And I said, "Yeah, dude, now I know that this character doesn't die. Thank you."
I know, knowing someone dies is bad, but not knowing someone doesn't die, or that can sometimes be just as bad or worse. Because
unless it's Torgal, because if Torgal dies, I'm dieting. I'm telling you right now.
I'm gonna bring you back on the show. I have some grievances. Grievances. No, okay, so in-game content, I'm with Kudo on that one. I think it's going to be about the Final Fantasy mode. Used to be called Transcendence mode, but the Final Fantasy mode, I really want to know that, because man, as much as Rings of Accessibility, I get a lot of comments. They're like, dude, I love the Rings of Accessibility, and I'm like, I'm glad that you love them. I'm still a little bit like, I don't know how I feel about them being in the mode. Like, I just wanted them to be a separate thing, but that's just me. It's there for people who need it to, like, hey, I want to pause the game. I'm not really good at action games. That's Kuda. Kuda, you were like, I'm going to use these rings. And it's like, awesome. But for me, man, I want it to be like freaking this Final Fantasy mode. I want to see what that's like. Show me what it's like to to experience these boss fights that maybe they're going to change things up a little bit, change up attack patterns. You can show me that. Show me something I've already seen though. Show me the Garuda fight again. But hey, here's the Garuda demo on Final Fantasy mode, and I'm like, all right, cool. I've seen this before. Never seen it on this mode before. Now I can compare. But yeah, so they're going to be talking about in-game content. They're going to be talking in like it was Filthy Locker, I think, pointed it out, saying that in-game doesn't necessarily mean post-game. So that
Fair.
So
No,
it could be like, hey, before you beat the game, here's what you can expect. Like, hey, here's a super boss from the hunts. Like, here's a look at a boss that you're only going to fight if you do the hunts, if you do the side quests. That's cool too. And then so that's what's coming next. Now I'd like to close out concerns and stuff like that with asking Kuda, after this conversation, how are you feeling? Still on the fence?
I am still on the fence,
okay.
But I do think that I don't know. I'm trying really hard to continue to hone in on the areas that I do like, and I do think that we've made some excellent points here.
Yeah.
And there is a lot that, like we said, like we don't know. And there's a lot that that's both good and bad, but hopefully leaning more on the good side. Yeah. That there will be these things that will happen that will pull me over.
What is something that was you went into this conversation? What is something that you went in and now you're like, I like that a little bit better?
That's hard.
No, I didn't do it. I didn't bring the hype.
No, it's
suplex him.
I didn't suplex you. Damn.
No, get the toggle cannon. Wait, I'm gonna hit him with something. Nah.
No, I feel like it's the idea that I guess I like. Part of it is like because you have so much faith in the game, right? And because there are so many other people who have so much faith that I don't know, I'm not super far in 14, so I don't have like the Yoshi P like like vibe. So like the idea of like no, like I know that these characters are going to be fleshed out, and I know that there's going to be all these moments like. They haven't shown us that, but I know that's for a reason. Like that confidence, I think, is really what I'm like really taking away. It's like, okay, like there's something here that my experiences and my knowledge and stuff, like I don't have that, but other people do. So let me listen to these other people who are very much more like they're picking up what they're throwing down, and I'm not because I'm not on that. Like I haven't been on that train yet.
Right.
So that makes me feel a little bit better. That like there's a reason that
that
like
fans have so much faith in this right now. Yeah,
right.
It's like a #1 pre-order on Amazon.
Yeah, I mean not true. Not necessarily. I mean I feel like Cyberpunk sold a lot of stuff at first too, and it was not a great experience at the beginning. So like not always true to go by what sales and stuff are going for, but I do think that like. I don't know. I think that there is certainly a a place that is a middle ground. I know that this is probably not going to be my favorite Final Fantasy, and that's okay. Yeah. But I do think that, like you said, like you brought up a lot of stuff too, where it's like this is Final Fantasy to me, and you're like, you know what? Yeah, like I was looking at it from this perspective, but like no, like you're totally right.
Yeah,
so,
it's like coming from the other side of the things where it's like speaking on that, like this is Final Fantasy to me. I mean, we got crystals, we got chocobos, we got Moogles, we got them all, man. We got at the end of the game, we're most likely going to confront the gods of this. We've already heard like that the fallen civilization. I think we saw, or it was 1,500 years since the fall of our forebears. But in the Japanese translation, it literally says that since the forebears challenged the gods and failed, and we've been paying for it ever since. We're going to get to that level. We got a moon up there in the night sky with a red dot. That's Final Fantasy to me. Like something's happening up there. We got a sky civilization. I want to go there. It looks like we do get to travel there with Phoenix versus Ifrit. They're hopping on. Oh, a little spoiler for my breakdown, but like they're hopping on the pillar or the spires that we saw from the fallen civilization, and that looks like it's in the sky at nighttime. So I think that's such an amazing way to open the game. Like you go up there and you're like, where the heck am I right now? And then you come back down, you know it's up there, no way to reach it until you get that airship. And then, but it's just like, you know it's there. You got the moon. And like, it's like all this Final Fantasy DNA. And then on the flip side of things, like listening to you express your concerns and stuff like that, I'm just like, yeah, I totally empathize with that. Like I totally can put myself in that position and just be like, yeah, I can't tell you minigame. I can't tell you the party. I don't think party's gonna be there. You just like let's like I'm gonna just kind of set the expectation. So hopefully, you can be like, okay, you're right. I'm focusing on something, and then I'm missing these things. Right. That was what I kind of was hoping, and you said it right there, and that's just like that was great. That's reassuring that this conversation was like, hey man, I'm kind of not blinded, but I'm focused, hyper focused on this one thing, and it's just like I'm missing the DNA over here of Final Fantasy. And now that you brought it to light, it's like, yeah, there it is. That's what I was hoping, So
yeah.
All right, and then Liam, you got Final Fantasy 16 is your first launch thing. Has this conversation? Has it gotten you any hype? Like, are you hype? Are you still there?
No, I'm still hyped.
That's what we talk about.
Like I said, I feel like if anything, I'm just now interested to see where this one's going to take me. This is going to be, not that, like, I've already been introduced, but now this is, like, my formal entry, if that makes sense. Like, this will be my entry point where I'm on the same, we're all going to hit the ground running together.
Yeah.
As far, like, this, I've had to play catch up.
Yeah, no,
I played it well with 7.
It's such a great perspective, man. That's why I love having you on the show, because it's like you have this newcomer perspective, and it's great to get that. It's great to get that.
And I'm excited now because I would say I'm a Final Fantasy fan. I don't have that same tenure that you guys have, but now, we, whether or not we like it or not. When Final Fantasy 16 comes out, we'll either be fans of it together, or we'll be like, we'll have takeaways, or we'll have
Kuda,
whatever.
don't you put that evil on me, Kuda. Talking about Cyberpunk. Don't you put that evil on me.
No, that's not what I wish for. No, I'm not.
This game is polished, man.
Listen, if you don't like it, Torgal's gonna bite your ankles and drag it.
As long as Torgal doesn't die. That is my one ultimate condition.
I'm sorry. I was like, dude, if Torgal died, can you imagine how heart-wrenching that would be? Like, I was like, yeah, I mean, it's so weird because, like, Aerith is a human being, but like, I'm sure that's not a spoiler, but, I mean, it's been out since 97, but, it was like, you got a human being, and then he's just like this dog. If this freaking dog dies, do you know how this will become one of the most impactful moments? But I'm also thinking, like, I don't think the dog's gonna die. I don't know. I've kind of got back into I've gotten back into the mindset of like, maybe not.
It's too easy, but also too like controversial.
It's whatever serves the story, right? Like if it serves Clive is where I'm at. Like, I don't think it's going to serve to do anything to Clive, because at that point, hopefully, he's on the up, man. Don't hit him with another one.
I would rather see Jill or Joshua die than Torgal.
Okay. All right. That's fair. And I even
Are we gonna get a Torgal prequel movie? Like, right? I just want to throw that out.
Torgal animated series.
The Torgal animated series. But what side content are we gonna get before?
They said nothing, man. And which is. On
actually,
one hand,
I kind of
really happy.
I do like that a lot.
No, because weirdly enough, part of the reason what actually drew me to 15 was how much content there was.
Yeah.
I did watch Kingsglaive right before jumping in. I wanted to I did watch Brotherhood right before jumping in.
Yeah.
But that being said, not every experience has to be.
Yeah, I'm on that side of the fence where I loved that with 15. Like I wanted everything that it gave me. But when it comes to like Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, like after June, Final Fantasy TV switches focus to Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, and we go hyper focused on that, making content for Rebirth. Back to 7 again, and it's just like, you're right. I love 7, my favorite game of all time. So it's just like, dude, if it was like anything on the original Final Fantasy 7, I got it. But there is so much content.
No, I know.
To like, if I have a theory, I have to like freaking go to the library and grab like every book off of the shelf. I need to go freaking explore. But it's just to find one little morsel. It's like, did this character ever do this? Did this character ever visit this location? Let me check on the way to a smile and find out if he went to this location.
Dude, it's wild.
Yeah.
Actually, you know, it's funny. I just bought. I didn't even tell you this. I just bought the What the hell is it called?
Traces of Two Paths?
No.
No.
The Japanese cell phone, cloud cell phone.
Oh.
I just bought that. I don't even know Japanese. I couldn't get a Before Crisis emulator to work for some reason. So I said, you know what? I'm playing with the phone and I'm playing with Google Translate.
like holding it over the
like Snap Lens.
That's how I looked at the Ultimania when it came out. I got the
I'm
Ultimania
sure.
Japanese, and I'm like scanning it with Google Lens, getting the terrible translations.
Albeit, I mostly bought it to put in my collection because I'm like, oh, this would be sick. But like, I do plan on playing Before Crisis like that, which is gonna be mind-bogglingly annoying.
And then the minute that you actually, please like start that today, because the minute that you finish, they're gonna announce Ever Crisis doing Before. And, yes, so please.
No, I think did they say that they're putting Before Crisis in Ever Crisis?
I think they did, but Ever Crisis has just disappeared off the face of the planet.
Yeah, really.
Point. So
we'll get
put it on
more.
Switch.
That's what I'm saying.
I think we're gonna get information at that very soon. Very soon. I think
we'll wait till
Summer
June.
Game
It's
Fest.
16 time.
Yeah.
Yeah. After 16, we're gonna get a bunch of Rebirth and compilation things, I believe.
So speaking of 16, to kind of close it out, just a quick prediction of Metacritic score. Where are we going? Let's go with Liam on the Metacritic score.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't know. I really.
Would you
it's
like
hard
to help,
to
like put context to things? Like I got some notes.
Yep.
All
Yeah,
right.
if you have numbers to run me.
Yeah, I can run you some numbers. So most Final Fantasies, 12 and below, are sitting at 90 or higher.
Okay, that
now,
checks out.
It's much more difficult for these modern Final Fantasies to achieve that. Final Fantasy VII Remake is at 89. Now, this is of the time I wrote this, so I don't know if it fluctuated or not. But the time
I was just about to say, that's what makes the newer games difficult, is that you have patches, you have updates,
True.
you have DLC. It does affect that, but continue.
Yeah, so
It's at 87 right now. 7 remake.
Okay. Final Fantasy 15 was at an 85. Heaven's Word, I'm bringing this in there because Heaven's Word has the same writer. Of course, this is the Final Fantasy 14 team working on it. So I was like, let's bring in at least we can judge it off of what people thought the story was, like how they like that, and in addition to everything else. Heaven's Word was at an 86. Shadowbringers was at a 90. Same team, but not the same core team working on Shadowbringers. But I just kind of wanted to throw that in there. That is a Final Fantasy, modern Final Fantasy that is performing very, very well. So Shadowbringers, that 90. Now, got to throw in the inspirations. Devil May Cry 5 is at 89. So to give you a little idea of what people think of that kind of gameplay. God of War 2018 and God of War Ragnarok at a 94. So that's in the 90s. Shadowbringers in the 90s. The rest of these are kind of high 80s. Now,
That's where my guess is. If you want my honest, I mean, I'm gonna guess. My initial thought was like 88, but I don't know. I don't want to like lowball it either, but I also don't want to like come like genuinely based off of what you just said, but also just going by like what we've seen. I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna say I said 88 before. I was thinking about going back to 86. I'm gonna go 89.
I'm just kidding. I'm gonna go ahead and round up, like above
Yeah, I'm gonna
that.
round up.
I'm gonna
and
round
not
above.
even to even, but no, like yeah. Oh, I think from what we're seeing, it looks like it's got everything that what the current market wants from a AAA dark fantasy driven type title game. And if it does it well, I think it's going to score very highly. If it comes, I know that didn't it just go gold recently or whatever? Like what's the
been gold.
Yeah, it went. Yeah, so
The only thing that will delay it is if a meteor.
If a meteor crashes into Japan.
so keep Sephiroth out of here. But no, like no, but as far as that's concerned, like assuming that going gold is a really good sign that they patched out any like hiccups that could be, then I have no reason to suspect that it's not going to be a mid 80 at least. But that being said, if it's like a buggy patch needing mess, we'll see. I don't think it's going.
It's
that
definitely
route.
not going to be. This is going to be a very
So
very
I think
polished experience.
genuinely, my guess, like I said, is like 88, 89. I think 88. I'm going back to 88.
Okay, so 88. I think that's fair. I think it's fair, like,
Yeah.
based off of like Devil May Cry 5. I think it's a little bit low, but what do you got, Kuda?
I'm gonna also stay around there. I
Okay.
think we're following launch of like Breath of the Wild, which obviously totally different, but I do think that is going to steal not Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. I'm
Oh
sorry.
yeah.
And I feel like that's going to steal a lot of people's focus. And I think that I don't know. I think that that's going to do a lot of I don't know. I don't think that it's going to shine as brightly as it would if it wasn't following a major Nintendo.
Dude, it's so
super,
funny you said that. I was just talking to somebody, and I'm like, listen, I've been a longer Zelda fan than I have been a Final Fantasy fan, but I am holding off on playing Tears of the Kingdom because I'm just that excited for
Wow.
getting into 60. Because I know if I start Tears of the Kingdom,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna be stuck in, and that's
Yep.
a game where like. Dude, I remember when I before I played Breath of the Wild, I'm like, I have to get any game I want to get out of the way right now
Yep.
because I'm just gonna be sucked in this for like hours. And so I did, and then because you're just moseying around doing whatever the hell you want.
Yep.
And so I'm actually, and it's a very hard choice to make, but I'm actually, unless I cave, which I might. I'm only human. But like,
There's a month or so in between.
I don't have that
so-
much time. That's
I
I still have to
know.
finish 15.
But I'm just saying, like, that's a long time to hold yourself out.
Yeah, I mean,
You get
I
2
don't know.
weeks.
Like,
2 or
I
3
also
weeks.
got the Switch a bit later than most of my friends, so I had to hold it out for a while anyway. So if I,
We're
it's really
definitely
just gonna
gonna-
be the matter of FOMO.
Yeah, we're definitely going to talk
Yeah.
about like game of the year as well. Like if we think it's going to be there. Kuda, did you give your Metacritic prediction?
Oh, I'm gonna say around 88. I still
88?
think it's gonna score very high. I don't know if it's gonna break 90. And I don't know.
Okay. So like 88 and 88, or 89 from Liam.
Yeah, I'll take. You know what? Stick with. We'll go 90.
Oh, okay. So here's
I'm
where
Mr.
at.
Indecisive today.
I'm just I'm at it at this scoring very, very well.
Okay.
Like Liam made the point. He said this is the game that this is what people like. This is what reviews very well. I see Devil May Cry at 89, and I say Devil May Cry, no, not knocking that game, great game, doesn't have the story depth that Final Fantasy has. So you factor in that Final Fantasy factor, right?
the triple F.
Yeah, you get that Final Fantasy factor, right? And you bring that up to a 90 at that point, right? At least a 90. You bring in the gameplay that this thing has, like I'd say Devil May Cry, great. Final Fantasy is better, and from what we've seen, it looks like it improves, it iterates upon what Devil May Cry is setting out to do. You also factor in Icon versus Icon, the escalation of battles, the roller coaster ride, keeping it in a nice breezy 20 hours. Like this is going to be a great roller coaster ride of an experience, and if it continues to be gripping, if it continues to be like the entire time you are at the edge of your seat and you can't wait to see what happens next, while in the meantime they are sprinkling in these side quests that matter. Like they're like, let's go with God of War as an inspiration for the side quests. These are side quests that matter to the story. These are side quests that flesh out characters like Mid. I want to know more about her, so we're going to do that side quest for her. We're going to do, and it's not only just going to know more about her, but it's also going to know about how she's connected to Clive's past. Let's even make that even deeper. These side quests have to matter, and then you have the roller coaster ride of the main story. Bro, this game is going to go high up in the. I think I'm going 95 or 4, 94. I'm going 94. I'm going to go 94 on it, and I think this is where we're going to go into the game of the year discussion. Listen, Liam,
Stacked year.
I know you love Legend of Zelda. I'm not that big of a fan.
That's fair. I'm not as huge as Zelda. Like, don't make me have to be like,
Okay.
like I do love Zelda. My favorite game of all time is Wind Waker.
Okay.
But I would say
Fair.
I'm almost more similar to how some people are like more of a 7 fan than they are a Final Fantasy fan. Not that I'm like, because I have played other Zelda games and I do like other Zelda games, but like Wind Waker for me is like top tier, and then the rest of the games have always been like
Breath of the Wild, right?
The best one.
So Breath of the Wild was a fantastic game. Like I love Breath of the Wild. What it did was very I don't know, breathtaking. It was it had a lot of intricacies in it that I thought was just really cool.
It was genre defining almost.
I think we're getting more of that. Like everything I've seen from Tears of the Kingdom, we got some cool little mechanics. We can meld together things, Minecraft style or whatever you want to call it. We can craft things. That's cool. We can craft our weapons to combine them and fuse them, basically. It's like cool, but it feels like an iteration upon what we got with Breath of the Wild, which is not a bad thing because that is hailed as one of the best games of all time by many people. So not a bad thing. But I think if I'm critics, which I'm not because I don't know how they're going to rate. They movie critics said Mario Bros. Movie was bad. I don't know what they're doing. So so if I'm critics though, I'm going to.
They're forgetting it's a child's movie. But anyway, continue.
Yeah, I'll be like Tears of the Kingdom, good game. It's an amazing game. I'll be like, this is cool. This is a great game. I love what I experienced there. It was a nice adventure. But I am not in Tears of the Kingdom. I can guarantee you. I'm not going to get that roller coaster experience. Like, I'm not going to get something like what Final Fantasy 16 is showing us. In my opinion, and this is going to upset some people, but if I put Tears of the Kingdom side by side with Final Fantasy 16, I'm going to be like, how is this not your game of the year? Like, how is this not better than this? And like, I mean, I know there's a lot more to it.
Like to that, I would say it's almost like apples and oranges. I mean, I don't think some people like Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, I get it. Some people like oranges.
I mean, the way I see it though is like Tears of the Kingdom is not probably going to be that roller coaster experience that you're talking about with 16, but it's a huge sandbox world that you are going to be able to.
You're going to get engulfed in it. You're going to be immersed.
There's something, like, I mean, look at like the speedrunning community with Breath of the Wild. They could beat that game in like under 20 minutes. Yeah. It's the openness of the game that made it what it was.
The freedom,
right? Which actually, funny enough, as I've gotten older, open world games scare me.
I can't do it.
No, like linearity. I've just been so linear minded.
I'm at that point too in my life. I wonder if other people are in that point in their lives where they're just like, you know what, Tears of the Kingdom, it was amazing when I played Breath of the Wild. I wanted that open world, but you know what, man, I just kind of burn out on the open world. It's just like, here's more of that open world with Tears of the Kingdom. It's going to be amazing. I'm not even going to. I'm going to say Tears of the Kingdom will probably be at a higher 90s Metacritic score. It'll probably be up there. It might even be better than 16 in the Metacritic score. But if that's the case, what I'm saying doesn't make much sense. But like, I still think that 16 should be Game of the Year. I think the biggest contender to that might just be Spider-Man 2 coming out. Like Spider-Man 2 coming out.
This is a stacked year.
It's so good.
Genuinely, I was just looking at like messages because I was asking my friends actually before I came on here. I'm like, does anybody have any? Because like, there's so many stacked titles that have come out, are coming out. I mean, I made like a loose prediction on, and most of these games haven't even come out or I haven't played them. But like, just based off of what we got so far, I was like, I think for my biggest predictions for like contenders for Game of the Year were like 16, Tears of the Kingdom, Jedi Survivor, because
that's not going to be a Game of the Year contender, but
I was just say, I mean,
I think it might be.
I don't know. I would love it.
You got Spider-Man 2. There is like I know Square Enix has like potentially 4 releases coming out this year alone. I mean, there is some controversial titles, but still, like, with things like Hogwarts Legacy, but still people were raving about that. Like, this year was stacked.
This year is insane,
like,
man.
Between what's, like, again, with, like, the Hogwarts Legacies that came out, and that was, like, that was a console seller for a lot of people. And it's not even an exclusive. It is coming on old-gen consoles. So what does that say? It's, like, a very, like, it hasn't come out yet.
It's just going to...
You got that. You got 16 coming out. You got... So... This year is honestly one of the hardest, in my opinion, to, like... I haven't had this much trouble, I think, since, like, 2018 or whatever, when Red Dead 2 came out. Like Red Dead Redemption 2 was like one of the last, because that was like what God of War came out that year, I think.
2018.
And then, yeah, Red Dead Redemption 2, like that was another stacked year.
It was quite a year.
But
this year is insane though. Like,
I think, yeah, I mean this year, I mean, hell, if you want me to say what I want Pikmin 4 to be Game of the Year.
That's coming out this year too. Yeah.
I know, and that's coming out this year too. I don't think it's gonna get Game of I don't think
Family
it's
Game of the Year.
running.
It's a requirement that Nintendo wins Family Game of the Year.
Dude, no, like I want Pikmin 4 to do great. I love Pikmin. That's like that's my favorite Nintendo franchise. Funny enough. But anyway, so no, but like this year is hard to say. I mean, genuinely, I would love to see 16 win, but like if any of the other titles that I just said won, like I would not be surprised. Like it's at the point now where like it's just like you tell me Tears of the Kingdom wins. Yeah, all right. I could have guessed that. You tell me Spider-Man 2 is gonna win. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, I mean
Jedi Survivor.
Point, yeah, I mean like I do agree. Jedi Survivor is my next game. Like Tears of the Kingdom is on my list, but I will be waiting until after Final Fantasy 16 probably. But like with Jedi Survivor, that's going to be the game that's going to hold me off until 16. But yeah, man, this year is so stacked, and we haven't even hit Summer Game Fest or the Xbox Showcase or anything like Starfield is another one that's going to be thrown into the.
I was gonna say Starfield's coming out,
and
like I said, I know Octopath Traveler 2, which I mean. I don't know if that will make it, but like I wouldn't be surprised. Like you could tell me
this in the
this
RPG category.
This will be.
And what Square Enix has also got Forsaken or whatever. They got another one cut, and then we don't know the official date for Rebirth.
But
like
the other thing is that to consider is the Game Awards. The cutoff is like around November, like mid-November.
Okay, yeah, I was about to ask that. When is that?
So, Rebirth won't be.
Okay, yeah, that's next year. I was trying to remember when the cutoff was.
Well, even if Rebirth did somehow make it to December, it would still not be in the cutoff. Yeah,
exactly.
That's what Kuda's saying. Yeah. Man, we got such a stacked year. So I know the running thing going around on Twitter is Game of the Year as soon after that State of Play, but I'm like, oh my God, we are in for a competition. If Final Fantasy 16 can prevail this year as Game of the Year, that says something. Like that's what I'm trying to say.
I mean, it does say something. But here's the thing: is that you could show me, like I said, every game I just said like a minute ago. You could show me, maybe not Pikmin 4, though. I'll hope for it. I will hope for it.
No, apples and oranges, man.
So.
But every game I just mentioned before, you put all of them in a lineup, and you know you could almost just you could put them on a dartboard, and whatever you hit, and that's Game of the Year. You can make a solid argument for it. You know,
oh man, dude.
Some of them might not be my favorite. Some of them I'm gonna definitely like more than others. But like that doesn't take away from the fact that like at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, Tears of the Kingdom wins or whatever. I might like Final Fantasy 16 like 100 times more.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna be surprised.
Nah, I'm not gonna be
like,
either.
You know, I'm not.
It's like when Elden Ring came out last year. I was like, well. Here we go.
Well, that felt
to
locked.
Note though, with the game, like it was like last year, it was God of War and Elden Ring. God of War swept everything except Game of the Year. I still like that could be another repeat this year.
Dude, no.
One thing to say, everybody should check out the Wikipedia article for Game of the Year and check out how many different publications like there are that have their own Game of the Year. And it is so fascinating. Like
16 will win Game of the Year.
West
somewhere.
The West does not value like Final Fantasy or like a personal series for me, Monster Hunter. But like the two Japanese publications that they had on the Wikipedia page, every time a Monster Hunter game came out, Game of the Year. Final Fantasies, Game of the Year. There's Monster Hunter and Final Fantasy, there was blood. But no, like if they released the
year
same
somewhere is
like you go to the West.
We'll find that goatee somewhere and we'll say there it is.
At the very least, it'll be
Game Awards never mattered anyway. God.
So it's just weird. I mean, it would be awesome to see like the West take on Final Fantasy as Game of the Year.
Yeah,
that would be great. Because I think the last time I saw an entry, at least, but it wasn't like I forgot which entry it was, but like it was like Final Fantasy X, and I was like, that was I don't know which publication that was, because that's not the main one that everybody looks to now. But you know, I think it would be cool, and I'm hoping. Honestly, I'm hoping for a lot of games to succeed. Pikmin 4 for Game of the Year.
If 16 can't win it, give it to Pikmin.
Yeah, please.
But there you go, guys. This has been an awesome conversation. I hope that it has been like, cool. Like get you over, maybe like get you a little excited for it, get you a little understanding of others who feel the way that Kuda feels, or on the fence, right? Let's be nice to each other out there. They no need to be saying that they're wrong because they're not. It's all from a place of passion about it. So
yeah,
hopefully,
really quick on that note,
Yeah.
I do want to say that I do feel like, and this is probably me speaking for everybody, which is not great to do, but just throwing it out there that even though I'm on the fence and even though I'm leaning towards like, I don't think this is going to be my favorite, like I do think that a lot of it, like you said, it is coming from a place of passion. Like it is never meant to be like, I want this game to fail because it's not exactly what I want. I don't think anybody wants that.
It rarely is when I see it on like my comments and Final Fan TV comments. It rarely is like to be just a I can't find the word I don't want to say, but it's a douchebag, I guess. It's like you're not trying to be. The fact that you took the time to write a comment out means that you care. So
yeah,
I always will listen to people who want to comment and stuff like that, unless if they're being derogatory and like calling, like saying,
well, of course,
yeah. Then it's like, okay, well, you just voided your opinion right there. Like I don't care about that anymore.
Just to harp on that point, it's a 35-year-old franchise.
Yeah.
There's so many. This is going to appeal to a lot of people. This might turn off a lot of people.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think most, if not all, want to see success come from this.
Yes. Yeah.
And
want
you
to
know
be,
what?
Want to be hyped. Want to be excited about it.
You want it to be good. You
might
might not look at it and say, "Hey, this is for me," but you still want it to be good for the people. I would think for the people who do want it to be good for them.
Yeah, and
so
the good news is, like I said at the top of the show, man, I mean, we're sitting at 55% at an excellent, what do you think of the state of play for Final Fantasy 16, 23% for very good, and then it's like 1-2% for the rest of the choices.
Awesome.
And it's like, man, I mean, this is definitely appealing, but there are Final Fantasy fans out there that, are like, oh, give me something to be excited about, and hopefully we have given you guys something to be excited about. Hopefully you've found some understanding on both sides of the fence. And I mean, there you go. Either way, Final Fan TV will be there for you, and we'll bring the hype. There you go.
All right.
That was from the Press Start, I believe, website. Press Start website had that poll. Thank you everyone who tuned in. Blackheart, I see that you're saying, don't get too hyped and praise at the moment. Man, can't help it. I absolutely can't help it. I'm going to praise.
Oh, what's up, Marcus? I didn't know you were
Marcus
there.
is here, baby. And I can't help it.
Watch Floor 67.
Yeah, watch Floor 67. You got Liam in there.
Good.
Yeah. And Kuda, do you want to plug anything while we're signing off?
I would just throw out there, my opinions are my own, but go see anything. I mean, Cosmic Canyon Observatory. That's my big thing. We haven't had a new video for a while, but Viz is getting super hyped and things for all sorts of things. So I imagine once Rebirth comes around, that the team will be chugging along again soon. But if you haven't watched the theory videos, Vizuvazoth, who writes all the scripts that I read, so I'm not the theory crafter. He's the mastermind, big brain. They're insane and amazing and definitely worthy of checking out. So please go do that.
Still very relevant.
Observatory.
Yeah. They're still very relevant watches. So awesome. In the Floor 67 thing, I don't know if it was clear, but that is Chase Summers Animations, and I'll
Chase Summers Animation. Yeah. It was a very talented team. I have had the honor to be on every video more or less that's been Final Fantasy VII themed under him, and MC Blackheart, he's in the chat apparently. Sup, Marcus? Check out his stuff too. Great stuff. Yeah. I don't have anything of my own to plug, so I'm gonna plug my friends. So there we go.
Hey man, that's good. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for watching and sticking with us. We have some people in here who stayed with us for like the past 3 hours, and that's awesome.
Y'all are champions.
Champions. Thank
you.
You
heard
so
me
much.
Say that guy's goat's name like 40 different ways, and you guys stuck through all that. Goots, goats, gruts. Groot. I am Groot.
Goose.
Gut. Every time they say his name, hey, go see Gut.
Gut.
Oh no.
All right, there we go. Thank you so much for watching. Take care now. Bye then.